What's going on, everybody? What's happening? Good afternoon. It is Sunday, July the 31st, 2022, the final day of July. The final day of July, ladies and gentlemen. It's 2:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name's Dave McRae, coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. Oh, it is, we're well on our way into August. August starts tomorrow. One more time! Tomorrow is my brother Bob's birthday. He'll be the big 54, I think. Wow, Bob. Doesn't look a day over 53. All Q&A Sunday. I know I just did one on Friday, but it's Sunday. I have some time today. Let's chat it up, whatever you want to talk about. You want to talk more Halloween? You know you do. You want to talk something else? Let's talk something else. Let's do it, ladies and germs. Let's do it. And a super chat comes in from the Badass Ninja. Sends in a very generous super chat. Let's get this one out of the way first. Sends in $20. Thank you, Chris. And says, did you know that in Illinois, someone won $1.34 billion in the Mega Million lottery? If you won that much money in the lottery, what would you do? Ooh, man. Well, for those of you, now I cannot speak as an expert in the lottery in the United States, but I believe in the United States, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, you are taxed on that. Although, so he gets $1 billion instead of 1.3 billion or 900 million, whatever the case is. That's a lot of fucking money. Whoever won that is rich beyond belief and doesn't need to ever do anything again. Probably multiple generations of their family, if they play their cards right. You can also blow that if you want. But in the US, you are taxed. In Canada, unless something has changed, you're not taxed. So one of our big lotteries up here is the Lotto Max. And it usually gets to about maybe 60 million, sometimes 70, $75 million, right? It's up there. I mean, that's a lot of money. And if you were to win that, there's no tax. You win $75 million. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. So that's one of the cool things about being here in Canada, if you were to win the lottery. But of course, you shouldn't move here just based on that. But $1.34 billion. My goodness. Look, that is almost incomprehensible. I mean, I can't even imagine, because the difference between $1 million and $1 billion is astronomical. It's like that thing, that people say, and I've done it too, like a million. Hang on a sec. Let me see if I can quickly get this. Billion versus million seconds. Yeah, okay. It's this analogy is really cool. Okay. Well, it's not an analogy. Well, it is an analogy, but you know what I'm saying. The magnitude of difference between billion, and million can be illustrated with this example of the time scale. 1,000,000 seconds. 1,000,000 seconds. So let's think of this as dollars now, right? 1,000,000 seconds is 12 days. Okay, so just under 2 weeks. 1,000,000,000 seconds is 31 years. What? So 1,000,000 seconds is 12 days and 1,000,000,000 seconds is 31 years. That's the difference. The difference is absolutely insane. So again, that gives you sort of a bit of an example of the difference between $1,000,000 and $1 billion. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. So it's almost hard for me to know what I would do with that. I mean, if I won, say, $30 million, I know what I would do with that, right? I'd pay off some debt. I would invest some. Maybe buy a nice new home. I would give some to family. And, but with $1 billion, it's almost too much. Do you know what I mean? It's almost too much money. I certainly wouldn't turn it away. Certainly wouldn't turn it away if I had it. But it almost feels like it's too much money. Like, what do you do with that? But I will say, Chris, that I would definitely take at least 100 million of that and make several different movies. I wouldn't make a movie that was worth 100 million or that cost 100 million to make. I would take like $100 million and make 100 movies. That's what I would do. I would give myself $1 million budget and make 100 horror movies. That's what I would do. I mean, imagine having $1 million. I mean, the first Insidious movie was like $1.5 million. You can make great horror movies for $1 million if you know how to invest it properly. And yeah, for sure, 100%. Or if I wanted to cast, like a known actor or something like that, whatever, maybe I make it a $5 million budget. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying that I would absolutely take at least 100 mil of that, put it in the bank as like my movie production budget fund. Okay. Oh my God, it'd be so amazing. It'd be awesome. And then I would invest the rest, I guess, and give some to my friends and family and buy a nice home on a beach somewhere or something. But then I would still probably have 800 million left over. I mean, what the hell am I going to do with it? You know what I mean? Crazy stuff. But yeah, $1.34 billion. Does anybody have their name by any chance? I wouldn't mind, just kind of nudge. Hey, could I borrow $5? Oh my goodness, crazy stuff. Thank you for the super chat, Chris. And by the way, super chats, of course, will obviously take priority, as I often say, because they are paid questions. So obviously, I will always answer those first, or make it a point to answer those as a priority, just in case people are new here to the channel and want to know what they are. Let me see here. Well, let me see. I'm trying to get some couple of faces in here I haven't seen before, which is really cool. Helen Park says, Dave, thoughts on many people around the world comparing the villain from The Boys, Homelander, to other villains like Joker or even Darth Vader as one of the best villains on television. Well, Helen, I have not seen one single episode of The Boys. So I have absolutely, unequivocally no idea who you're talking about. Now, I'm aware of the show. I know what the show is. I've seen posters for it and ads for it and all that kind of stuff. It's just not a show that I've watched. So I don't know who Homelander is. I have no idea. So I am not qualified to answer that question. My apologies. But maybe somebody in the chat will. Maybe if you start like a conversation, somebody in the chat maybe will be able to give you some insight on that. Let me see here. Wolfman's got nards. My man, Barry. One more time. My man, Barry. Imagine if I sat here all day doing that. My man, Barry. Hey, if anybody wants to pay. Wolfman's got ours. Says tax-free in the UK too. Awesome. We win tiny amounts compared to the USA. Yeah, well, that's tiny, right? What's tiny at the end of the day, But I get what you're saying. I totally, no, we in Canada, we don't have what's that, the Powerball or the big, the $1 billion one. No, we don't have that. Like ours is, we have several, like there's a lot of them, but our big one I think is the Lotto Max. It used to be called the Super 7, but it changed a number of years ago, maybe a decade or so ago, maybe not that long ago. And it usually gets, it can get up to like, 60, 70. I've seen it as high as 75 million. And that's when I usually buy a ticket. I'm like, well, I got to get in on that. Of course, your chances of winning are so incredibly slim, but hey, your chances are literally nothing if you don't play, right? As the old saying goes. Pretty cool. Super chat from D-Man. Oh, two from the D-Man. D-Man 1954 sends in $9.99, says, do you think the working title Cave Dweller for Ends could reference Michael living in the sewers beneath everyone's feet for 4 years since Kills? Well, I would think based on the rumors that are out there, based on sort of what we've seen in the teaser trailer, I would say that probability is quite high. Yes, I do. Now, keep in mind too that, I do think that this is the case for this. I think the working title does have something to do with the movie, but there are examples. There are examples throughout the decades where working titles don't have anything to do with the movie. They'll come up with some sort of cute working title that doesn't really have anything to do with anything. Cute bears. And what the hell does that have to do with anything, right? Now, generally speaking, a working title will probably more often than not have something to do with it, just because it's easier to follow and it's easier to kind of keep people in the loop and you know what you're talking about, especially, with those who are in the know. You say something that's too obscure and it might confuse a lot of people, even those attached to the project. But yeah, I would say that Cave Dwellers definitely, I'm not going to say definitely because I haven't seen the movie yet, but I think there's a high probability that is the case. Yeah, for sure. D-Man follows up with $9.99, says he's dwelling in the caves below them the whole time, and that's where he went. Corey seems to unearth him down there in the trailer. Maybe Corey even finds his mask down there or something. Thanks. No problem, and thank you for the super chats, buddy. I would agree. I think that's probably a high probability that Corey finds him down there, and clearly based on the teaser, he walks, he's walking in that sewer, and then Michael's hand comes out from like a crack in the wall or something and grabs his throat. I mean, obviously he's going to run in to Michael Myers down there. Now, what Michael's been doing down there 4 years, I don't know. Is his mask on? Is it off? I don't know. Is he sleeping? Maybe he's got a makeshift sort of bed and an office with a television and a fucking PS5. Who knows? Maybe he's been down there just fucking playing his PS5. I have no idea. Is the mask who we assume to be Corey, is that Michael's mask? I think there's a good chance it is. And maybe he finds it. Maybe Michael's sleeping and he takes it as he's asleep. Maybe Michael's not there. Maybe Michael's fucking taking a shit around the corner or something. And Corey's just like, oh, I'm going to take the mask. He steals it. He essentially steals the mask. If it is the same mask, I don't imagine that Michael gives it to him. I would think that he steals it. He either steals it without Michael's, without him knowing, or maybe, I don't know, I don't know. That's my guess. But yeah, no, to your point, or to your question, yeah, I think there's a good chance that it's called Cave Dweller because of all the shit that's happening underneath the streets, for sure. Let me see. Robert Kitzmiller sends in $5, says, are you a fan of Lady Gaga as an actor? She's cast to play Harley Quinn in Joker 2. Has it been confirmed that she's definitely been cast yet? I know there were rumors and she was in talks, but has it officially been confirmed yet? I haven't seen anything where it's been officially confirmed. But I could be wrong on that. Maybe it has been officially confirmed. I know she was in talks. What are my thoughts on Lady Gaga as an actor? I don't really have it. I think she's good. I mean, I've seen her in a couple things, and she hasn't stood out to me as as a bad actress or anything like that. I think she's a performer, right? She's she sings, she dances, she acts. I mean, she's sort of a Swiss Army knife when it comes to that kind of thing. And there are people that can do that. There are people that can't do that. In what I've seen of her acting, yeah, I think she's very talented. I don't know how she's going to be as Harley Quinn, if in fact that is who she's being cast as. Maybe it is. The last I heard was that Lady Gaga was apparently in talks to be in Joker 2, and the speculation was, well, who else would you cast her as other than Harley Quinn, right? And now, of course, we know the title of Joker 2, and it's French for basically like the madness of two or whatever it is, and you kind of think, well, I guess that's got to be Harley Quinn and Joker, but has it been confirmed yet? Like, has it been 100% confirmed that she is in the movie? And she definitely is. I'm not talking about speculation on Facebook forums. I'm talking about from one of the trades or the studio. It is 100% she is playing Harley Quinn. I don't know if that's come out yet. But if she is, I don't know Harley Quinn really well enough as a character to know whether Lady Gaga would be a good fit for that. She's a great actress. So I don't see why not. We'll see. I guess we'll see. Neil Rook sends in £5 and says, hello, my mate. Hello. Is there a situation where you think it would be acceptable for Michael Myers to speak or remove his mask? Hope you're doing well. Thank you. I hope you're doing well too, Neil. My immediate response would be no. But the filmmaker in me says, you have to leave a little bit of wiggle room open, because in a lot of cases, it does come down to execution. And I don't just mean execution of that particular moment. I'm talking about the execution of the entire story, where that would be a moment that the entire story is building to. And if you wrote a story that made sense and it was properly motivated and it just was building to this moment and he said something or whatever, I mean, it could be quite compelling. But that's almost a different kind of movie. That's like a different almost subject. Like, that's real deep drama, cycle. I don't think we're going to get that with a Halloween movie. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's not to do something like that and have it work, where you walk out of the theater going, I never thought in my entire life I would ever think, but holy shit, that actually, of course that's always possible, to construct a narrative that way where it makes sense. But in the confines of what we know about Halloween and it being a Halloween film, no, I don't want that, because the whole point of Michael Myers, when you're going back to the original intent of the character, is we're never going to know. The characters don't know that, but the audience should always know that it is useless to think that we are going to now find out why he's doing what he's doing. And there's a couple of reasons why you don't want to do that. The first is it defeats the purpose of the character, right? He's built on the foundation of ambiguity, anonymity, right? The mystique, the mystery, that's what he's built on. And these are sequels to that original intent. So he must remain a mystery, right? It's not knowable. I mean, that really is what is so exciting about the character, is the journey, not the destination. We don't need to know why he's doing what he's doing, what made him, why he's staring out the window. Who gives a fuck? I wouldn't have even added that in there. I wouldn't have even added something like he stares out a window. Who cares? He just is. He just exists. But maybe it's like a cat when a cat stares out the window or something. You don't know what they're looking at. You assume they're looking at the trees, the birds, the leaves. I don't know. We don't know. But I do think it's okay that the characters in the movie ask those questions. And we got a bit of that in Halloween Kills, right? Where they themselves are perplexed. They themselves want to know why, right? In a lot of cases when serial killers will murder people and they're put on trial and and the victims' families are there and all that, they want closure. right? In a lot of cases, families want closure and they want to know why. They want to know why. And they can't, it's very difficult to accept because. It's like that line in The Strangers, the very first one, towards the end of the movie where they say, why are you doing this? And one of the girls says, because you were home. It's such a great line. There is no reason. There's no reason, but human beings see, no, there's gotta be a reason. There is no, look, there are predators in the natural world. There are predators with human beings as well. And I think that Michael Myers fits into that. He's a predator. There is no motive. There is no rhyme or reason for doing what he's doing. It's instinctual. He's a force of nature, as John Carpenter said. He's like the wind. It just is. It just is. Now, obviously, because it's a horror movie, you add the evil and the poetic dialogue, and there could be something there, the devil's eyes, but we can never know that. We can't ever know that. That's what makes Michael work. The second you know that, you're going to please some people and you're going to piss off others, right? The second you attach a motive to him or a reason, don't do that. Just keep it a mystery and then you please everybody, But the second you try to explain it, depending on how inventive you are with the explanation, you might please half the people, but you're going to piss off the other half. Just leave it alone. It's unnecessary. Because the point is he just is. It just is. That is the character. It just is. You know what I mean? So yeah, I do not believe that he should ever speak or we should ever see his face, full on. And I know we saw a bit of his face towards the end of the movie with Tony Moran in the 1978 original. I understand all that. But that doesn't mean you have to show it again. It doesn't mean you have to show him emasculated. And that's another thing I always say. We should never see the shape emasculated, like kneeling in chains next to a water fountain with his mask on at the end of Halloween 5. Oh, well, shucks, they caught me. You know what I'm saying? No. So I'm right there with you, man, if that's how you feel. So no, I don't think they should. Almost missed that. Cody Sprague, I think that's how you say that, sends in $5 and says, if you could pick any fictional universe to live in for 1 year, where would you go? Oh, that's such a cool question, Cody. A fictional universe, where would I go? I think the Star Wars universe would be pretty cool. I have to admit, if I was like friends with Han Solo, hanging out with Han Solo, that'd be pretty cool, man. That I don't know if Han would like me, but the Star Wars universe would be pretty cool. But then again, your life is like always in danger. Well, potentially, depending on who you are, right? That'd be a pretty cool universe to live in. I'm going to say the Star Wars universe, original trilogy universe, maybe. That'd be cool. D-Man 1954 follows up with $4.99. Says, do you find that plot leaks spoil the experience of YouTube a little? Does it ruin speculation for you? Not for me. But you see, I've talked about this on the channel before, and it really comes down to who you are. What I consider a spoiler, you may not consider a spoiler. Everybody's threshold to what a spoiler is very different. I mean, we do live in a world where if you were just, this is true, and you know it's true. I'm not saying you're like this, but you know there are people out there that are. You could say that Michael Myers, drives a car and Halloween Ends, and there would be people going, oh, don't say that, spoiler. And it's like, really? You think that's really? Just knowing that is an epic spoiler? And then there are people that can know who Michael kills and how sort of the beginning of the movie begins with a prologue. They can know all that and not spoil anything. My threshold for what a spoiler is huge. It takes a lot to spoil something for me. I can know pretty much how an entire movie plays out, and I don't feel like I've been spoiled. Now, I don't know if it's because like I said, I'm a filmmaker and I tend to look at things a bit differently. That doesn't mean that I can't enjoy a movie on its own merits and get lost in the narrative and forget about how things are done, of course. But it's instinctual. If I see something, I watch a movie from two different perspectives. I will watch it, enjoying it, really enjoying it, but always in the back of my head is that filmmaker brain, and I will pick up on, shots or things or, whatever it is, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that was probably like a Dana Dolly try, what? It just is. But I've been like that since I was a kid. Do you know what I mean? So I tend to watch it from two different perspectives. And if I know pretty much how a movie goes, like say I've read the script beforehand, or there's lots of spoilers out there, spoilers, and I put it in quotations because again, what's a spoiler to one may not be a spoiler to another. It's all in the execution. You can read something on paper and it can sound fantastic, or you can know something and you're like, oh, that sounds like shit. And then you watch the movie and you're like, oh, that was amazing, because you have context, right? You have the context of the story, the performances, the music, all that kind of stuff. And it can really make a difference. But at the same time, it can be the other side of the coin as well, where you can read something on paper or know a spoiler and be like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. Oh, I can't wait to see that. And then you see it and you're like, oh, that was shit. Or that wasn't nearly as good as I thought it was going to be. So for me, it takes a lot to spoil something. But I respect that there are a lot of people out there that just can't know anything. They can't even know the color of Michael's shoelaces, or his bootlaces, I should say. Even that would be like, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? But then those are people I think they should just get off the internet. But yeah, so do I think it spoils it? It depends on who you are, right? It depends on who you are. I will say this though, and I know that there are people that disagree with me, but I will say this. I think leaking trailers early in shitty quality spoils shit. Because now I know that maybe it's because I'm 43 years old and I come from a different generation, but I just don't understand. I can intellectualize. I get why they're doing it, but I just don't understand why you would leak a trailer early, shooting it on your phone. So here you have so now you're shooting it off a screen. So the quality is dog shit. The audio is dog shit, and you leak it onto that's spoiling it, because your first experience with that trailer, whatever trailer it is, obviously the Halloween ones are in question right now because it's happened twice in the last year. But whatever trailer it is, your first experience is watching a subpar quality version of the anticipated film that you're excited about. That's dog shit. I want to see it in its intended quality, its intended format, its intended medium. That shit pisses me off. That shit I consider spoiler. I do, because you're spoiling the experience. That to me is a spoil. You're spoiling the experience. So that stuff ticks me off. But the other stuff, it just depends on who you are, man. It depends on who you are. So I think there are people that would agree with you and say, yes, the YouTube speculation and the plot leak spoils it for everybody. And then there are people that would disagree with you. But at the same time, here's what I have to say. Who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him? Okay, which is obviously from Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars. And that just simply means, yes, we talk about, but you're watching. There was a guy that reached out to me in a DM. I guess it was the week the teaser dropped, and he was like, dude, I just want to say that, you're fucking going crazy with stuff. You're always talking about, you're spoiling it for everybody. You're speculating. And I'm like, but you're watching. Don't watch. You don't, you're not paying for this shit. You're not watching, or you're not paying for it. You're not forced to watch. Then don't watch. Why are you watching then? Yes, I'm talking about it because I'm a Halloween fan and I'm excited about it, and I want to talk about it because I'm excited about it. But that doesn't mean you have to watch if you're worried about spoilers. No, you're spoiling. No. It's like, come on, man. What are you, 6? Come on. Have some accountability on your part if you don't like what I'm talking about. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that. All right. Can you believe that? Somebody's sending me a message going, I think they're doing that. Well, then why are you watching? You don't have to watch. What the hell are you doing? What am I, your dad? What am I, your parent? I have to hold your hand and coddle you? Come on. Christ. Anyway, Jonathan Grant sends in £5 and says, "Hi, Dave. You, the slaughtered movie lamb," I think that's supposed to be the slaughtered lamb, TSLM, I think is what you mean. I'm assuming that's what you mean. "And Wolfman are my faves. What films had an effect on you?" Sleepaway Camp for me. I was young when I saw it. Bad acting, though. Oh, well, I mean, the original Halloween. I mean, the original Black Christmas, Jaws, the Indiana Jones films, the Shawshank Redemption had a huge effect on me. I saw that at a time in my life when I think because I was a teenager when I saw it, and I was really starting to appreciate drama and character and cinematic language. Even though I didn't understand what that term was at that time, I was preparing myself in high school because I was going to be going on to film school, and I was really appreciating sort of the drama and how moved I was watching that film. Forrest Gump was a movie that actually was one of the first movies I can ever remember getting the lump in my throat. That big basketball you get when you're on the verge of tears because something emotional is. I've never actually cried watching a movie. That is true. I never have. But I have on many occasions, as I'm sure we all have, got that lump in the throat, right, when something is really powerful. And Forrest Gump came out in 1994, so I was 15. And that was, I might have had this experience prior, but that was one of my first experiences that I can remember actually having that lump in the throat. And I think it was at the moment when Forrest Gump is standing at Jenny's gravestone talking. And I remember just it hitting me, like, holy shit, and so I was, as a kid, you're into like slashers and Star Wars and all that kind of stuff. And that's all great. But as I became a teenager, I really started to appreciate drama more, like The Green Mile. Oh, love The Green Mile, Shawshank, Forrest Gump. So I would think that, those are some movies there that had a huge impact on me on a very, very impressionable time in my life, a very impressionable time in anybody's life, which of course is your teenage years. So I would say those movies are some for sure. The Badass Ninja sends in another $5 and says, "Did you notice that in the Halloween Ends trailer, they have the IMAX logo at the end of the trailer?" I did notice that. I didn't notice it on first watch. But since I've watched the trailer a few times, I did notice that. Pretty cool. So it does look like that the Halloween Ends movie will be going to IMAX. Fascinating. I will definitely be seeing it in IMAX, as long as nothing changes, of course. Arthur Vega sends in $15.99. Thank you, Arthur. And says, "Hey, Dave, hope you're having a good day." Sir, excuse me, I am. I hope you're having a good day too. Random question. Could you see Nicolas Cage in a Friday the 13th movie? Part of me wants to say yes, and part of me wants to say no. Nicolas Cage is interesting because he's a great actor, but Nicolas Cage has almost become like a caricature of himself. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was doing mainstream films that were getting theatrical releases in the 80s and 90s. And then his career kind of took a bit of a nosedive. And he started doing like a lot of, straight to video shit and straight to streaming shit. And he's become sort of, there's a documentary where he plays sort of like a half fictional version of himself. And not a documentary, excuse me, a movie where he's sort of playing like a fictional kind of version of himself. He's like a caricature. He's mocked, like all in a good way, but he's mocked, he's imitated, he's memed. I don't know if you could make a Friday the 13th movie with him in it without it feeling like it's it's a spoof or something. Do you know what I mean? So I guess it all depends on what Friday the 13th you want to make. Yes, the Friday the 13th films from the 80s were largely very campy and cheesy. But I don't know if that should be the direction to reboot the franchise. I think you want to take it seriously, and I think you want to present it in a very serious way, that we are taking this seriously. So I don't know if Nicolas Cage would fit in there. However, he could fit in there too, because he's a brilliant actor when he wants to be, and he can take himself seriously when the material requires it. So I don't know. at face value with your question, I would say no, because of the trajectory that Nicolas Cage's career has been on like lately. I don't really feel he's the right fit, but you never say never, I guess. Who knows? D-Man 1954 sends in $9.99 and says, "This will be my last." No problem, no problem. Appreciate it. Had a good time as a first-time writer since 2018. Very cool. Just want to say I love your vids. They inspire me to keep doing TY. Keep doing TY? Keep doing thank you? Keep doing the YouTube? Is that what you mean? Or just keep doing your thing? I'm sure that's what you mean. And I'll never forget your Halloween 4 epic ending pitch. Well, listen, D-Man 1954, thank you for watching. Because if nobody watched, if nobody cared about what I had to say, and like I always say, we don't have to agree on everything, right? These are my opinions. Depending on the question being asked and depending on what I'm talking about, I always try to come at my thoughts and my views from a place of being informed. But we don't always have to agree. And I wouldn't want us all to agree. That wouldn't be fun at all. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't be sitting here if nobody was watching. So thank you for watching and tuning in. I really appreciate it. And that goes for everybody out there. And thank you for supporting the channel with your super chats. Much appreciated, my man. And I wish you the best of luck, continued success on your writing. Got that. 1 second. Okay, there we are. And then Sean Sheridan sends in €2 and says, "Do you think this will be like H2O, love or hate?" I don't think H2O is a love or hate. I don't think H2O is polarizing. I think there are people that don't like H2O, but I don't think Halloween H2O, I don't think the general consensus with Halloween H2O is that it's a polarizing Halloween film. I don't feel that way at all. I think Halloween Kills is more polarizing than H2O. But I think Halloween Kills, I think errs on the side of people not being very favorable of it. But it's a little more divisive than say H2O. I think most people like H2O. I think I'm in the minority. Now, there are people out there that don't like it, of course. But I think I'm in the minority when it comes to Halloween H2O. I think most people like it for a variety of reasons. Number one being that it came out in 1998, and I think for a lot of people it was their first Halloween movie they ever saw in the movie theater. So there's a nostalgic connection there. For a lot of people, it may have been the first Halloween movie they ever saw. And for a lot of people, they feel it wraps up Laurie's arc really well with, her having that redemption and the head cutting off and all that kind of stuff. I think people like it. I don't like it because it doesn't look like a Halloween movie, doesn't feel like a Halloween movie, doesn't smell like a Halloween movie, doesn't taste like a Halloween movie. It looks like Michael's walked onto the set of Dawson's Creek. It just doesn't, Laurie's arc aside, I just am not a fan of what Chris Duran did with the shape. It's not personal to him. I just not a big fan of the masks, plural. And yeah, just not a big fan of the way it looks, the way it's shot. Not a big fan. I understand why it's liked a lot. But I don't know if I don't think H2O is a polarizing film. I will say that I think it's entirely possible that ends could be very polarizing because of, if the rumors are true and they are taking this big swing, it's entirely possible that it's either going to work or it's not. So it actually, now that I've said that, it actually might not be polarizing. Because it's such a big swing based on the rumors we've heard, it may be a situation where it works. It just works and most people actually really like it. Or it's such a big swing where it just doesn't work and most people just don't like it. So I don't know if Halloween Ends is going to be polarizing. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see when more information comes out and more more promotional material in terms of spots and maybe a trailer and things like that. Junior Sampson sends in $5, says, new subscriber here. Well, welcome, my man. Welcome. Great to have you here. So glad to have stumbled upon you after watching Wham! George Michael? No, I know who you're talking about. I'm just kidding. What horror icon do you think would put up the most fight against the Avengers? Ooh, against the Avengers, man, I would say horror icon against the Avengers. Ooh, I don't know. I mean, it depends on who you're fighting, right? I mean, if you're fighting the Hulk, I mean, Hulk smash. I mean, does Jason Voorhees really stand a chance against the Hulk? Do any of them really stand a chance against the Avengers? I mean, we're talking about horror characters against, superheroes. I would probably have to say Freddy Krueger then, because Freddy's a dream demon, right? And he could get to them while they're sleeping. So I would probably say, off the top of my head, I'm going to say Freddy Krueger, simply because he's a dream demon and he'll get them. He'll get Iron Man and the Hulk and Black Widow and Hawkeye and Captain America and who else? Is that it? Have I got everybody? I think I might have. He's going to get them when they're all sleeping. So that's my answer right there. Cody Sprague, another $2, says, coolest creature monster design in all of cinema. Oh, man, I don't know. I mean, immediately my mind goes to, of course, the werewolf in An American Werewolf in London. But, in all of cinema? Oh, dude, I don't know. In all of cinema? That's a tough question, Cody. I don't know, dude. That's like, in all of cinema, coolest creature. I mean, the stuff in The Thing is really good. I'd have to really think about it. I'm going to say, just for the sake of your question, The Thing and American Werewolf in London, but there's so many other movies out there with so many amazing practical effects and creature creations that I'm going to have to think on that a bit longer. That's a good question though, dude. That's a good question. Good question. Okay, did I get Amadusius? Am I saying that right? Amdusius? Is that how you pronounce that? Yeah, it's not Emma because there's no AMA. Amdusius. Maybe I'm pronouncing it. I think I'm saying it right. Hopefully I'm saying it right. $10. Hi, Dave. Do you think this never-ending desire to relive nostalgia in new film, Halloween 18, Hocus Pocus 2, Star Wars films, is preventing new ideas from coming to fruition in Hollywood? Preventing new ideas. I don't know if it's preventing new ideas, but it's a huge moneymaker, and there's no doubt about it. This sort of started, and it's not sustainable. Well, it depends, right? See, this is what's kind of weird, is that right now we're in the retro phase because, we are looking at things from like the 80s. That's kind of where we are. But eventually the 80s will not be cool anymore. And eventually, it might be the 90s or it might be the 2000s. Like, depending on how old you are and what your generation is, your retro, what's retro to you will be different. So somebody who was born in 2002, let's say, who's 20 years old right now, the 2000s and very early 2010s was like the 80s to me. You know what I mean? And I don't look back at 2012 as some big nostalgia trip, but somebody who's 20 right now might. So you fast forward another 20 years when they're in their 40s, and Hollywood could be looking at the 2010s as some big nostalgia thing. That's when the show Stranger Things came out. So you might see things for that, or, whatever the case is, right? So everybody's nostalgia is different. Let me just first say that, depending on how old you are. But right now, we are in that 80s retro sort of nostalgia, and it's big business. It's big money. And Hollywood is going to ride the coattails of nostalgia until it's not profitable anymore. They follow the trends. As soon as something isn't financially, as soon as something doesn't make sense financially, Hollywood drops it really quick. They follow the trends. That's what they do. They look at what makes money and they think, well, that's interesting. That's, why don't we do that, right? So if all of a sudden, it's true, right? You have a show called Stranger Things. It's about these kids in the 80s. It makes a lot of money. It's hugely successful. And all of a sudden you see Hollywood doing similar things. You know what I mean? That's what Fear Street was. That's what The Summer of 84 was. Mind you, The Summer of 84 was an independent Canadian film. But nonetheless, why did they make Summer of 84? Well, probably because of Stranger Things. Although I don't know for sure. Maybe he had the idea before that. Who knows? But you do see those patterns, right? You see those patterns. So obviously, Jason Blum wanting to give The Exorcist the Halloween 18 treatment. He wants to give Elm Street and Friday the 13th the Halloween 18 treatment. Why? Because they're following the pattern. They're following the trends. This was successful. Can we take this and apply it to all of this, right? Show business. And as soon as it's not successful anymore, they stop doing it. Now, I know that wasn't your question. I just want to kind of to set it up because it's a good one. I don't know if it's preventing new ideas from getting made. But it's certainly, there is a lot of original content being created. There's a lot of original films being made. They just don't make the big money. And because they don't make the big money, the studios don't want to put up the money to market them. And that's part of you see, it's not just about making the movie, it's about marketing the movie. You can have the best movie in the world, but if no studio is going to market it, then nobody's going to know about it. And one of the biggest things that for independent filmmakers out there to keep in mind, because I had to learn about this and I'm still learning about it, is if you are funding your own projects, like if you're raising money on Indiegogo or whatever the case is, yes, you definitely need to raise money for your film, your production budget. And of course, you have to have money aside for all the perks and things like that for sure. But try to factor in a marketing budget, especially if you're an independent filmmaker and you want your movie seen and it's an original piece. It's not a fan film. I'm talking about it's an original film. You got to have dollars to market it. Because then nobody's going to, you can put it on YouTube and let it sit there, but if it's not something that somebody's really looking for, then nobody's going to find it. And so I think they are being made. I think they're just not being marketed because right now, in comparison is what I mean. Obviously they're being marketed if a studio picks it up, but right now we're just in that nostalgia era. Where these kinds of movies make big money. So they spend the money to market them. But if you go on Netflix or Amazon Prime or Hulu or whatever, there's a lot of original films that are out there, but they get picked up by Amazon or they get picked up by Hulu or whatever, and they get plopped onto the platform and they sit there and the streaming service doesn't do anything to market them, really. Sure, there's a trailer maybe and there's a poster and, there's a little bit of marketing money, but at the end of the day, they know that this isn't what people are looking for. This isn't what people want. No, they want, superheroes and blockbusters and all this kind of stuff, right? And that's where all the money goes because that's what makes the money, So you kind of have to go searching for it. It's tough. It's tough being an independent filmmaker or a filmmaker at all, trying to get your film made, seen, picked up. It is one of the most competitive businesses in the world, show business. And it is relentless and unforgiving. And they don't care. They don't. It ain't personal. Well, unless you make it personal, it's business. And it's tough, man. It's tough. But I don't think it's necessarily preventing them from being made, but it's certainly, I think studios are not putting the dollars into marketing them and letting they exist. That's happening a lot, I think, because they're not going to fork over $25 million to market your movie when it's not even going to make that. And if it's just put on streaming, there's no box office. So that's another thing too, right? You have to keep in mind is that there's a lot of great original films that go to streaming, but they're not going to make money at the box office. So the streaming services don't bother marketing them, It's crazy stuff. It's crazy stuff. That's how I kind of based on what I know and based on how I see sort of the pulse of the industry, that's kind of part of the issue, part of the problem. But somebody who works in the marketing department or for a studio might be able to speak a bit more in depth. But I certainly think I'm in the ballpark and on the right track with that. It's a good question. And to your point, actually, in some instances, it may prevent something from being made. I don't think it's preventing it altogether, because obviously there are original films being made. But there could be a situation, to your point, where maybe a studio's like, no, we don't want that because we're doing all this right now. It's all hot. You know what I mean? And but that's happened for years and years and years. That's not new to now. Okay, Sean Sheridan sends in €2. Says, do you like John Carpenter's Vampires 1998? No, I don't think I do. I haven't seen it in years, and I don't remember it being one of my favorites. George Stegall sends in $10, says, hi, Dave. Thoughts on Brendan Fraser and his comeback? I'm excited to see his new film, Whale. A24 is attached to the project. Have you ever seen Gods and Monsters with Brendan Fraser and Ian McKellen? I have not seen that movie, and I think Brendan Fraser, I've always liked him, and I know he's had a tough go-around in the industry over the last so many years. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing this film. And I even think, what's her name? Sadie Sink, is that her name? The girl that plays Max in Stranger Things. I think she plays his daughter in this movie, if I'm not mistaken. I'm looking forward to seeing it. It sounds interesting. I'm rooting for him. I want to see him make a comeback. You know, I think he's a good dude, and yeah. I can't wait to see it. Sounds interesting. I mean, I don't think we have a trailer yet, right? Just a photo and a synopsis. So I'm looking forward to it. The Quantum Tiger sends in $4.99, says, what slasher franchise do you think will be next to get the Halloween 18 treatment? It's probably going to either be Freddy or Jason, I would imagine. And at this rate, it's probably Freddy, just based on, what we know about what's going on with Friday the 13th, or what continues to go on with Friday the 13th. So I would say probably that, but you never know. Happy Sanjo says, being mature about it, is there anything the Halloween series could do that would make you give up on the series and not watch them or try to see? Well, I will always watch them. I mean, I see what you're saying. It would have to be something just completely silly. Like it would have to take it in a completely different direction where Michael takes off his mask and puts on green spandex and walks around topless. And you know what I mean? Like, it would have to be so ridiculous. It would have to be. I'm always going to watch a Halloween movie. I'm a Halloween fan. I watched the entire behind the scenes of Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, even though I don't like the movie. Now, I like it better than Halloween 5, but I would watch a 4-hour documentary on the behind the scenes of Halloween 5. I would, right? I love watching the process and the filmmaking process and watching it come together and all that kind of stuff, So I don't think there is anything that would prevent me from watching it. Although, to be fair, take Rob Zombie's two Halloween movies. I was not a fan of what Rob Zombie did in that first Halloween movie. So much so that I didn't even bother seeing his Halloween 2, in the theater when it came out. I watched it like years later. I didn't watch Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 till 2012, 2013 maybe. It was like 4 or 5 years after it came out because I was so disappointed with the creative direction and how it just became really, hick, and rednecky and that kind of stuff. Like it didn't. So that's something there, right? That it was a very sort of polarizing kind of change, and it's Rob Zombie's style. I get it, but it just wasn't for me. So I think it would have to be a stylistic change that just doesn't sit right with me. Like I've often said that if they were ever going to reboot it, I would like them to go back to the 1950s, do a film noir, set it in black and white. Dr. Loomis is no longer a psychiatrist. He's a, detective from Chicago who has to come to this little town to kind of help these small town police folk out. He's dressed in a trench coat fedora. You know what I mean? It's a horror movie, but it's very like Hitchcock. Like I like that. That's stylistically, that's a change, right? That's sort of a reimagining of the Halloween story, and it changes things up. But for me, I like that. It would have to be something that is just a complete stylistic change, a complete creative change that I just don't like. That's what it would have to be. Thinking about it a bit longer. But at some point, I would always get around to watching it just because I would want to see what the hell is this? You know what I mean? But yeah. Good question, though. Jonathan Grant sends in £5, says, what is your favorite Elvis 70s song? Mine is Moody Blue. I was born the 15th of August, 1977. Oh, a day before he died. Incredible. A favorite Elvis song from the 70s? I don't know. Maybe, this might have been late 60s, actually. Suspicious Minds. I think that might have been late 60s. 70s, I'm not sure. I'd have to go back in. I mean, and look specifically at that decade. There's a lot of Elvis songs I do love, like, All Shook Up and Jailhouse Rock, In the Ghetto. I quite like, that might have been the 70s. That's a beautiful song. And then, of course, you got, his latest Flame, which I think is a great song. Return to Sender. Don't Be Cruel and fucking Baby I Don't Care. That's a great one. Santa Bring My Baby Back to Me. It's a Christmas song that I think is really good. He's also got that. What's that? Big Boss Man. That's got a great sound to it. But these are songs from the 50s and 60s. I got to go back in and double check on the 70s. Because in the 70s, actually it was 1969, 70, I think, when he sort of got his Vegas stint, right? Or maybe it was 70, 71, somewhere around there. And so, yeah, and he got really into the gospel at that time, and he was incredible. I mean, incredible talent. But yeah. Moody Blue. I have heard, I'd have to listen to Moody Blue again. I think I know the one you're talking about. But born the 15th of August, 1977, dude, the day before he died. That's wild. That's wild. $5 comes in from Red Foreman, says, hey Dave, been a subscriber for 4 to 5 years and been loving it. Any thoughts on the channel post ends? No, I have no thoughts on my channel post ends. I have no idea what I'll be doing after Halloween ends. Not too sure. Haven't really been thinking about it. We'll see. I've sort of just been focusing on the things that I'm working on at the moment, and of course trying to get we're in the home stretch here for Halloween ends, and we'll see what happens. So no, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. Not entirely sure. By the way, Darren, I know you're still there. Darren, drop a link to your channel in the chat, folks. If you have not subscribed to the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast, please do. It's hosted by my great mods, Frank Riker, Darren Sands. You're going to love it. Great content over there. They're approaching 3,000 subscribers. They're close. They're on the doorstep. They're almost there. I think they're like 100 away or something, or 100 and change away or something like that. So feel free to drop the link to your channel in the chat room, Darren. And if you have not subscribed, do it. You will thank me for it. And every now and then, I appear on the channel myself. So maybe that's a deterrent. I don't know. Yeah, so I'm not too sure, Red. I'm not too sure. Really haven't thought about it yet. Dexter Morgan sends in $5, says, what are your favorite memories about going to movies in the 80s and 90s? Any particular fond memories you have about being in specific theaters? That's a great question. Well, in the 80s, obviously I was a young boy, right? So I was like, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't really have any specific, I remember, well, no, that's not true. That's not true. What am I talking about? I remember seeing Back to the Future at the drive-in when it first came out in 1985. I remember seeing Gremlins at the drive-in when it first came out in 1984. And that was cool. And I believe that was like back at the time when you weren't, I think it was anyway. I'd have to ask my sister. But I think that was back at a time when you were still listening to the drive-in with the speakers on the side. I don't know what year or what decade, because it was probably different for different parts of the region and the country and the continent and, all that kind of stuff. I don't know when drive-in started using the radio, which of course is what you do now, right? You use your car battery and you turn on the radio and you go to 93.2 or whatever it is, and that's how you listen to the movie, which is great. That, I think that's awesome. And it's especially great because you can have your windows up and you don't have to worry about bugs. Well, back in the day, of course, it wasn't always like that. You'd have a speaker that you would attach to your car. And I think that, like in the early 80s, I think that's how you still did it. I think so, because I know in the 70s, before I was born in 79, but before I was born, I remember my mom telling me this great story about how they went to the drive-in. So this, I don't know, let's say it's like 1975 or something, I don't know. And my dad was putting mosquito netting around the car. And he had to do that because you had to have your windows down in order to listen to the movie, right? Because it was coming from that speaker. And my dad was like, there were moments my father was like Clark Griswold. Let's just put it that way. And he mosquito netted himself out of the car. So now he couldn't get back in the car. It was hilarious. According to my mother, it was hilarious. And again, this is probably like 3 or 4 years before I was born. But so that definitely was a time, that you had to listen to the movie with the speaker. So anyways, I'm rambling on and on about this. I just think it's kind of interesting. But Gremlins, Back to the Future. I saw Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade in the movie theater. I saw 3 Men and a Baby in the movie theater. I love that movie. Godzilla 1985, of course. The first Ninja Turtles movie in 1990. The 2 Home Alone movies. Funny enough, I didn't see any of the Star Wars movies. In 1983, I was 4. So when Return of the Jedi came out, I was like the ripe age. I mean, I still wouldn't have remembered much. I mean, I would have been 4, but you thought that would have been a movie that I would have gone to see, that my parents or my brother or uncle or somebody would have taken me to see Return of the Jedi. But I didn't. And then, of course, with The Empire Strikes Back in 1980, I was too young. I was only a year old, so that wouldn't have made much sense. But in the 90s, of course, I worked at a movie theater in the 90s during the summer months when I was in high school. And it was in and around the time when the theaters were changing. So now, of course, movie theaters have like the stadium style seating and they're big, like, Coliseum, some of them. And, they are what they are now, right? We know what they are. But of course, back in the day, if you're old enough to remember, theaters weren't always like that. And I remember when the theaters changed and we got this new theater down the street called the Coliseum. And it was going to have like 24 theaters and stadium style seating and, and concessions. You have like Baskin Robbins and New York fries. It was like, what? Taco Bell? It was like, what the fuck? Right? Because of course, in the old theaters, you just had your little concessions at the front where you got your popcorn and your hot dog and your soda. And that was it. They didn't have like Baskin Robbins and Taco Bell. What the hell is that? So as a teenager, it was like, you know what I mean? So I applied for a job and I got the job, by dancing to Billie Jean, Michael Jackson's Billie Jean. For those of you that may not know, I can actually do the moonwalk, thanks to Bruce. Bruce is the one that taught me how to do the moonwalk. And I can dance to Michael Jackson's Billie Jean. Oh yeah, I'm not kidding. I can't. Now, I probably have to brush up on it now, but I can. And I remember I went down in the summer and there was this long lineup of everybody and because there was lots of people that wanted to get jobs working here, right? It was this new big fucking thing that was opening, right? It was amazing. And they were asking people, they had like the stereo set up and they were looking for people who had personality, who had charisma, right? Because you're dealing with the public. You're at a movie theater. It's a different thing now, right? They wanted people that had great personalities, that were extroverted, you know, things like that. And my buddy Brian, who was there with me just as support, he wasn't applying for a job, went over to the DJ that was playing music. And this is in the parking lot. And they were still like constructing the theater. You could see it, like it was nearly done. And they had like these like trailers set up where you'd go for like your interview and stuff. And all these people wanted to work at this theater. So they said, okay, if anybody could dance, we'll move you to the front of the line. Now, they weren't looking for people who could dance. They couldn't care less whether you could dance or not. But they were looking for people who had the confidence, right? It's a confidence sort of test, right? Who has the confidence to step in front of, you know, these 300 or 400 people in line here and dance? Who has that? Well, Brian knew that I could dance to Michael Jackson's Billie Jean. So my buddy Brian requested they play Billie Jean. They had it and they did. So I walked out in front of everybody and I started dancing to Billie Jean. And of course it's on pavement. It's in the parking lot. So the moonwalk, it's not as smooth as it would be if you were on stage in a pair of loafers. But nonetheless, I still was able to achieve it. People knew what it was and it looked really good. And they picked me right away and they put me to the front of the line, like right to the front of the line where like I was next to go into this trailer and have a job interview. Pretty cool. That's a story I don't think I've told on here before. Although I'm not entirely sure. Maybe I have. But pretty cool stuff. So that was cool. That would have been like, mid-90s, something like that. I was a teenager. That was a lot of fun. So, there's some stories. There's some stories to gnaw on. Okay, let me just 90s. Matthew Ferreira sends in $4.99, says, which are more campier, the Friday the 13th films or the 70s Godzilla film? Oh, I would say the 70s Godzilla films. The 70s Godzilla films are way more campier than the Friday the 13th movies. And the Friday the 13th movies are campy, but the 70s Godzilla films are just, very campy. Very campy. Junior Sampson sends in $5 and says, what would you need from Halloween Ends for it to end up ranked number 2 in the franchise? Number 2 in the franchise? For me, I need more suspenseful stalking scenes. I think it's too late for that. Although I agree with you, I want more lurking and stalking for sure. It's part of Michael's MO. And the fact that we've hardly had it, we've had bits of it, is disappointing. I don't think there's anything they can do that's going to put this at number 2. I mean, that's asking a lot. That's asking for it to be, for me to enjoy it and I think it's way better than Halloween 2 from 1981, which is my favorite sequel, my second favorite in the franchise. So I don't know if that's possible for me. You never say never, right? You never say never. I don't know if that's possible, but I will say that it is possible for this to be the best in this trilogy. I think that's achievable for me. But based on what I'm hearing and the rumors I'm hearing and things that are likely to be true, I don't know. I'm not crazy on what I'm hearing, but I am open-minded enough to be proven wrong. So I reserve full judgment until I've seen the movie, of course. But some of the creative decisions I'm hearing that are just rumors at the moment, that I'm hearing that they have, and I say they're rumors. I know we've heard it from the test screen. I'm saying that because we haven't seen the movie yet. It's not been 100% confirmed. That's why I still put it in this category until we can 100% confirm it. Based on what I'm hearing, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't surprise me if at the end of Halloween Ends, Halloween 18 is still the best movie in this trilogy. But we'll see. We'll see, man. We'll see. It's a good question, though. It's a good question. We'll see. Red Foreman sends in $5, says, was watching Halloween 1978 and Michael Myers never went after Laurie. Instead, she went to Annie's house on her own. Makes what Hawkins said in Kills very believable. Yeah, look, it's very difficult, and I've often said this, it's very difficult to compare the events of Halloween 1978 to anything else in the franchise. And the reason for that is because you will always, on some level, you will always be putting a square peg into a round hole. Because Halloween was created as a one-off movie. They were not brother and sister in that film. So everything they try to retroactively sort of, make sense and try to, is always going to be a little, okay, I guess. Yeah, I guess that works. Do you know what I mean? So we always have to tread very carefully when we try to compare the original film and the things that happen in that movie to either the rest of the series, to H2O and Resurrection, or, or 2, 4, 5, and 6, or, whatever, right? Because no matter which timeline you choose outside of Rob Zombie's 2 films, Halloween 1 is always canon. So whether it's Halloween 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, whether it's Halloween 1, 2, H2O Resurrection, or whether it's Halloween 1, 18 Kills and Ends, Halloween 1 is always canon in every one of those timelines. So we always have to be careful because, like I said, it was a one-off movie, and what you think is sort of makes sense and they're alluding to something that they make something, it doesn't. They've retroactively kind of gone back to try and make it make sense. I just want to say that first. I think, look, it's very clear that Michael is infatuated with Laurie in the first movie. He follows her. He follows her friends. I don't buy into this theory. This is just this whole idea that Michael was after Annie the entire time. He was after everybody. Okay? No, it's all about Annie. It had nothing to do with Laurie. That's just somebody who's got way too much time on their hands, that likes to, read their own posts and wrote some think piece on this and tries to make it work. And from a certain point of view, I guess you can kind of see it. And isn't that interesting because it's somewhat new information? Sure. Knock yourselves out. But that wasn't the intention. That's not what was happening. Laurie walked up onto the steps, put the key under the mat. Michael happened to be there, saw her, instinctually felt sort of like, oh, this kind of looks like my sister, kind of, whatever, blah, 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 follows her around. By following Laurie, or by following Tommy, he follows Laurie. By following Laurie, he ends up seeing Annie and Linda and, whatever the case is, right? And Bob is just sort of collateral damage. Yes, he didn't... look, we could say, well, if Laurie never went over there, would Michael have ever gone after? I don't know. Fuck, guys, it's a movie. I have no idea. But just because he stayed over there and killed Bob and killed Linda and killed Annie doesn't mean that he was never going to come across the street and get Laurie. It doesn't mean, I don't think... I get what you're saying, but I don't think that's evidence of it. What Hawkins really means is Laurie developed an obsession with Michael Myers, and it was her entire life for 40 years. And the obsession was that Laurie felt, that it was about her, that he's after her. It's funny because that obsession would make more sense if Halloween 2 was canon. Do you know what I mean? Because then you can point to him actually going after her. But then that wouldn't make any sense at all to what Hawkins was saying. Really all that is, with Hawkins saying this, really all what Hawkins means there is Laurie. It's really about Laurie's obsession. It's not really about any events that happened in part 1. You know what I mean? Because I've clearly pointed out, it all depends on how you, there's so many people that like to interpret it in so many different ways. But I believe the intention is that Michael was just over there killing because he had more people to kill over there. You know what I mean? And then Laurie just walked over there and he's like, well, I'll kill you too, bitch. Does that mean he would never have chased her? Maybe. I don't know. But I don't think that's really what Hawkins is talking about. Although, maybe it's more to do with the obsession that Laurie had developed in thinking it was about her. And he's just saying it was never about you. It's not about anybody. He doesn't even know who you are. So I think it's really more about the psychological ramifications of Laurie's, almost the psychosis that she's developed because of this obsession, rather than pointing to any sort of actual sort of events or lack thereof from the first movie. Now, as a fan, you could, like you've just done, you can look at that and then be like, yeah, there's a perfect example. Sure. Okay. But there's no evidence to suggest that he wasn't going to go over there after anyway. Was he setting up the Judith tomb and, putting Annie out on the bed for Laurie? Was he doing it for the cops? We don't know. We don't know. I get what you're saying, but I always sort of roll my eyes a little bit because I not at you. I just mean at some of the great lengths that people will go, like it wasn't about Laurie, it was about Annie and all this stuff. It's like, oh, come on, guys. Come on. No, I mean, again, you can fit that square peg into a round hole, but at the end of the day, what you see is what you get. It is what it is, Arthur Vega sends in $20, says, Dave, if you could hang out with a celebrity who passed away, who would it be? For me, it would be John Candy. Ooh, John Candy would be a great one. Celebrity who passed away. I don't know. Hang out with him? Stanley Kubrick. I mean, I know, he's not really, he's a celebrity for all intents and purposes, but Stanley Kubrick would be interesting to hang out with, job shadow him, see how he worked, things like that. That would be interesting. That would be interesting. Let me see here. Let me scroll back. I would say, yeah, I'll say that. Oliver Mercer sends in $5, says, hey, Dave, had your father ever got to see Elvis live? Plus, what are your thoughts regarding ancient technology that's been lost? No, my dad, I don't think so. No, I don't think my dad ever went to an Elvis concert. I know he went to Graceland with my mom back in the 60s when Elvis was alive and there. He was actually there because there's a photo of my dad and my mom on the outside of the gates, and Elvis was home. And my dad was there on the outside of the gates. I remember that being that it was when he was alive. Yeah, because it was either late 60s or early 70s. So that's cool. And ancient technology that's been lost, we mean like ancient technology that's been lost. Do you mean like ancient, like thousands of years ago, certain kind of technology or do you mean ancient technology like retro technology that we don't use anymore or something? I find it interesting. I'll just say that. I find it interesting, fascinating. It's funny. What are your thoughts on ancient technology that's been lost? Well, Oliver, the ancient aliens and the sophisticated, the symptomatic resuscitation unit of the ancient, just a funny question. I'll just say this. I do find it interesting watching documentaries or videos about, old tech or even ancient, like ancient, going back to Babylonian times or, whatever the case is, right? And what sort of they supposedly used for certain things. I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah, I find that stuff interesting. Sure. I don't really have any other thoughts on it beyond that, but I find it interesting. Frank Jager sends in $1.99, says, what's your favorite Freddy moment from Resurrection? Oh, you mean Freddy is in Busta Rhymes. I think Freddie in Resurrection spelled F-R-E-D-D-I-E, I think. But anyway, my favorite moment, I don't have a favorite moment. I do not have a favorite moment of Busta Rhymes in Halloween Resurrection. Favorite? No, there's no such thing. The Slaughtered Lamb says, next week, Dave will do the show Spinning Around on His Head. Spinning around on my head? I'm lost. That must be from something somebody said earlier. I'm lost. Darren, you got to at me and let me know. And yeah. And let me know what that was about. I feel like I'm left out now. Movie Chat and More Part 2 sends in £5. Says, hey, Dave, how are you? Doing good, Richard. Please bring back McRae Live. Being 42, it was like the good old days. Looking forward to my favorite show 3 days a week. Well, maybe, but it's all about scheduling. It's all about timing, scheduling, not being too burned out, all that kind of stuff. So not going to promise anything, but you never know. You never know. If I do bring it back, it might be in sort of a different capacity, but we'll see. We'll see. But thanks for the super chat, Richard. I really appreciate it. Jonathan Grant sends in £5, says, Dave, you have to do a video of you moonwalking. I think everyone wants to see it. Even Atkins wants to be thrilled. Yes, that's right. Thrilled. Thrill me. I love that fucking line. Yeah, I could do it. Maybe the next time Bruce is over, I'll get him to shoot me doing it. He can do it too. And you know who else can do it? Victoria Miro, who played Sam in It's Me, Billy. When we were setting up for the attic scene, and Victoria, we had the Christmas music playing, and Victoria and Shelby and Maleka were just, farting around, and I was there and I was filming them, and all of a sudden Victoria, because she's a hoot, by the way, she's absolutely hilarious, she starts dancing to the Christmas, she's dancing through, did we have Christmas music on, or was it something else? No, I think it was Christmas music. That's why it was kind of funny. So she was dancing to the Christmas music, and then all of a sudden she starts doing the moonwalk across the fucking attic floor. And we're all like, what? And it was like legit, like I'm telling you, there's a specific way to do the moonwalk, and there's the right way and the wrong way. And she did it the right way. And it shocked me. I was like, what? It was really funny. Things you learn on set. Maybe I will do that. Maybe I will. And prove it to you. Cause I'm sure there's somebody in here that's going, oh, fuck off. Yeah, right. No, I can do it. Totally. Like legit do it. Haven't done it in a little while, but I'm sure because I know how to do it, it wouldn't take much to do it. Maybe I'll do it across my kitchen floor in my socks, because that might be easier because you get a better slide there. But yeah, no, we used to do it. I remember dancing to Billie Jean at my high school dances and doing that. It was a lot of fun. Let me see here. Here we go. Slaughtered Lamb says, Dave, following the moonwalk thing. Right. Oh, I get it. Yeah. Next week, spinning on my head in my spandex will be. Oh man. I totally forgot about that. Yep. Got me a job at a movie theater. Well, it got me to the front of the line. And then my magnetic charisma got me the job at the And on our name tags, we had to have a favorite movie of ours, and I chose Raiders of the Lost Ark. So my name tag said Dave, and then underneath it said Raiders of the Lost Ark. I probably still have that name tag somewhere. It's probably in a box. I should see if I can find that, because I kept it after I quit. I worked there 2 summers. I worked there for two summers, and I liked it because I was dealing with movies, right? It was fun. Let me see. Okay, have I got all the super chats? Maybe I did. I got them all. If I got them all. Oh, no, wait. Jonathan, do you have a video? Moon. Okay, no, I got that one. I think I have got them all so far. Anyway, we still have more time here in the show, but I think I've got them so far. Let's see if I can get some non-super chat ones. Okay. Destination Station. I love that. My parents' first date was the viewing of Elvis's body back when they were in high school. Also, my acting coach was Red West, Elvis's bodyguard. Very cool. That's very cool. It's quite a first date. That's very cool, man. And I love your name, Destination Station. I like that. Destination Station. Kind of reminds me of when TBS back in the 90s was like TBS, the Superstation. Do you guys remember that? That was cool. Evil Alex says, Dave, you think we ever get a Michael Jackson film like the recent Elvis film? Or is the controversial stuff around his life too risky for a film nowadays? And should a film even address it? Well, it depends on what you're doing, right? I mean, it depends on... You certainly can tell a Michael Jackson story and have a moment of the biopic or the story where it kind of addresses it and then you move on. It depends on where you want the focus to be, right? You know, it just depends on where you want the focus to be. The problem with Michael Jackson is that it was such a big part of his story. Listen, we can have a debate on the allegations and whether you believe he's innocent or not, okay? But let's put that over here for a minute, okay? Let's put that over here for a minute, all right? The allegations in and of themselves is a big part, unfortunately, is a big part of the Michael Jackson story. Now, maybe not early on. I mean, maybe you tell the story of Thriller. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that's what you tell, right? And maybe the movie's called Thriller or something, and you just tell about this little kid that, you know, came from this really fucked up abusive home, and he was part of the Jackson 5, and he went off on his own, and he created the biggest selling album of all time. Maybe that's what you focus on. But if you're going to focus on his entire story, it would be extremely difficult not to address it, because it was a huge part of the story, especially when you get into the late 80s, early 90s. You know, I mean, it's almost impossible not to. So I think there will be one day. I just think that they are, when I say they, I think those who might be thinking about it or whatever, I think it's just a matter of figuring out what story do we want to tell? You know, where do we want the focus to be? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, because you cannot tell a Michael Jackson story, his whole story, and glaze over it. You just can't. You can tell his rise to Thriller and not mention it, sure, but you can't tell 90s Michael or late 80s. Like, you just can't do that because it's such a big part of him, for better or worse. I guess it's not for better, but I just mean, like, whether you like it or not is what I mean. Not that you like it, but that didn't come out right. Both those things didn't come out right. I mean that, you know, at the end of the day, I guess what I'm trying to say, you know, it is what it is, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Nobody likes that. Who likes that? It's kind of brain fart. Dave once bought a chimp. I did. I bought a chimp. His name was Larry, and I used to dress him in, you know, these tight sort of spandex, and used to run around and fart and shit in my pool when I had a pool. Rad77 says, he wasn't abused, Dave. His dad was just very stern. Abusive seems like he was brutalized. Well, listen, Rad, I'm not going to get into the logistics of what was and what wasn't. There's different types of abuse. There's physical abuse, there's mental abuse, there's emotional abuse. So to say that Michael Jackson was not abused at all, from everything that I've read about it, I think is incorrect. So I disagree with you. But I don't want to turn this into a whole sort of talk on Michael Jackson, because for whatever reason, when you start talking about Michael Jackson, it brings people out going, and it's just like, I don't want to deal with that here. So yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Kevin Lucko, is that how you say that? But Dave, Dave. Michael is just the spirit of Enda. The shape will transfer to another body. Enda? I don't know who Enda is. The shape will transfer to another body. Oh, I certainly hope not. I certainly hope that's not what happens. I certainly hope it's not. Frank, my man, Frank Riker is in the house. Frank says Dave keeps a studded glove next to his bed. I do. It's on a like a little table that turns, and the little studs and the diamonds glisten in the light. Totally. And it talks to you. It actually will like go down like this into a little hand like this, and it will be like, hi. Can you imagine? Oh my God, that'd be funny. That'd be funny. P. Rich says, Dave, is it worth going to the film school in Toronto? I've been thinking about it. You mean the Toronto Film School? I think that's what it's called. I don't know. I didn't go there. I went to Niagara College way back in the day. But I haven't heard anything bad about it. But whether it's, I don't know. And when I don't know, what I will say is this: do your due diligence on it. Don't apply until you've done your due diligence and your research on it. Just do your best to find out as much information as you can. I know the institution you're talking about. I've never heard anything bad about them. I've never seen some news story about some shady shit going on with the Toronto Film School, whatever. I mean, haven't heard anything. Lots of people graduate every year. They go every year. I'm sure I could probably ask Bruce because of his job. He might know better than I do. But yeah, I haven't heard anything bad. So I would, now whether it's the right program for you and whether, make sure that you pick the right program and where the right focus is and things like that. Unless it's just sort of a general overall filmmaking course, I'm not sure. I'm sure they have different programs and different levels and things like that. So yeah, just do your due diligence and make sure you're getting what you pay for. Of course, there's lots of programs as well. I mean, you can go to, well, it's no longer called Ryerson anymore. I believe it's called the Toronto Metropolitan University or something like that. I would have figured out another name. But anyway, but I know that Ryerson has a good film program. Sheridan, of course, does. These are, of course, our, colleges and universities. I don't know if U of T does. I don't know. U of T is more of a science kind of school, I think. But certainly Ryerson, Sheridan, York might, although I'm not sure. George Brown, maybe, but definitely Ryerson. Again, they're now known as Toronto Metropolitan University. I guess it's TMU now or something. They're very good. And Toronto Film School, I think it should be fine. I haven't heard anything bad, but just make sure you always do your due diligence, because you might find something else. You might find something out that I didn't know about, or you might find something out that is not bad or anything, but you're just like, that's what okay, no, that's not what I'm looking for. Like, you might find that out too, right? So just do your due diligence. But yeah, Toronto Film School, haven't heard anything bad. Unimpressive Media says, hey, Dave, just picked up the It's Me, Billy book. Can't wait to read your interview. Awesome. Yeah, there's a, now it's not associated with us. There's a book called It's Me, Billy, Black Christmas Revisited. And it was co-authored by, I believe it's Dave Hastings and Paul Downey, I believe, is from Bloody Flicks in the UK. And they wrote sort of a tell-all, not a tell-all, but an in-depth kind of book on Black Christmas, sort of Black Christmas version of like Taking Shape kind of thing. Not nearly as thick, not nearly as involved, because obviously there's not nearly as much material. But they dive into Black Christmas, the original from 74. They dive into the remake in 06. They dive into the 2019 movie. And they also give a couple of pages to our fan film, It's Me, Billy, which is great. And I did a interview for the book. So if you're a Black Christmas fan and you want to read that, or you want to read up on Black Christmas and read a lot of interviews and all that kind of stuff on all 3 movies, 4 movies if you include It's Me, Billy, then make sure you pick it up. I think you can get it off Amazon now, and I think you can get like a hardcover and a paperback if I'm not mistaken. So very cool, man. Very cool. You'll have to let me know what you think. Lee Bowers says, hey Dave, I'm going to see E.T. in IMAX August 11th. Very cool. For the 50th anniversary, and seeing Jaws on September 2nd, both in theaters, both amazing classics. Oh, dude, I'm jealous. I would love to see that. That would be awesome, man. That'd be awesome. I'm always looking for, I had just realized that Raiders of the Lost Ark was playing in theaters here for like a week and I missed it. I was like, oh, fuck. I would love to see an Indiana Jones movie, especially like the original. Well, no, I did see Last Crusade in the theater when I was 10, but I would love to see either Temple of Doom or Raiders. Raiders would be great to see in the theater because it's Raiders. It's classic. It's one of the great adventure films of all time. You know what I mean? That'd be so awesome. Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any super chat. I don't think I did. The Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast says, Dave, how's those Elephant Man bones doing? They're doing well. And I usually look at them and examine them after I come out of my chamber there. I usually, and then I'll examine the bones and I'll moonwalk across my floor. He did, didn't he? Didn't Michael Jackson purchase the Elephant Man's bones or something? I think he did. That's crazy shit. Crazy. All right. Let's keep this going. Scared Straight Production says, hey, Dave, what's something you learned while putting the assembly cut together of It's Me, Billy? Also, any fears while making the movie? Fears of it not hitting expectations? Assembly edit. Something I learned while putting the assembly edit together. Something I learned. I don't know if there's anything that I've learned. I mean, the process is the same, right? So obviously, It's Me, Billy, although It's Me, Billy was the first, I would say, professional movie I've made in terms of production value and the film, the whole process of piecing a film together and the cast and the crew and all that kind of stuff. It's an independent film, obviously, but it's professional through and through. But in years past, when I've made less professional stuff, the process is still the same when you're editing and putting, the picture together and all that kind of stuff. So the process of putting the picture lock together, the assembly edit, I don't know if I learned anything. It was the same kind of process that I've always done for years. Maybe something will come to me when I'm doing something else, like I'm washing the dishes or something. Something might come to me, but off the top of my head, I can't think of anything specific that I learned when putting the assembly edit together, specific to the assembly edit itself. I'm not really sure. That's a pretty comfortable area for me in terms of the process. However, any fears while making the movie, fears of it not hitting expectations? I think there's always that. There's always fears of that. I think what was fascinating about this, again, because we were, going about it professionally, is that you're working on a schedule and you have people depending on you, and because we're, it's an independent short, right? Bruce and I were handling a lot of the roles, right? I was the props master. I was the producer. I was an executive producer. I was the director. I was the co-director, co-writer. And so was Bruce. He was, he was the co-writer, co-director, co-producer, executive producer. He was the production manager. He was, like there was a lot of roles we had. Now, thankfully, because we were able to hire a crew, we were also not shooting the movie and lighting the movie and all that kind of stuff. So we were able to kind of, handle those other roles with relative ease. But because of the situation, there wasn't really a lot of time to think of this consciously and worry about it. But I think it was always in the back of your head that, this is the real deal. And you have a crew, cast included, of 17 people. And, you got to feed everybody, and you got to make sure that everybody is happy and that everybody has a place to stay, and that, you're coming in on time and you're coming in on budget. And, and so that was, but it was, there was a lot of focus on that, and a lot of sort of, making sure that we were following the shot list and we were having enough time to shoot everything. But I loved it. Like, I loved every minute of it. It's what I was born to do, what I feel I was born to do. And so I loved every minute of it. So it was intense and it was scary, but it was a good kind of scary. Do you know what I mean? Like, it kept you on your toes. There was a lot of adrenaline, but it was good. Now, also, the reason why it probably was good was because we were so prepared. As I've said many times, we were very prepared. I've never been more prepared for anything in my entire life. So, and we had a great crew and we had a great cast. That's not always the case. Depending on where my filmmaking career goes, I'm not always going to work with people that I gel with, right? You always hope to work with people you gel with, but that's not always the case. Right? So you have to be prepared that not every movie you do is going to be like shooting It's Me, Billy. You know what I mean? You're going to run into people that you don't get along with. You're going to run into egos. You're going to run into conflicts of interest in terms of creative decisions and ideas and all that. Not conflicts of interest, but conflict in terms of, creative decisions and all that kind of stuff. And I was working with my best friend of 30 years. It's almost cheating in some ways, and I hope to make more, I hope that we can kind of become like a team, maybe kind of like Radio Silence, you know what I mean? That would be amazing. But at the end of the day, I think there was fear there for sure. But because everything was gelling so well, because we were so prepared, it went off without a hitch. Well, not without any hitch, with minimal hitch, I'll say. So it was all right. Like, it was a wonderful experience, but I'm not naive and not stupid enough to know, or to think, I should say, that it's always going to be like that. No, it ain't always going to be like that. Like I said, depending on where my filmmaking career goes, you're going to work with people that you don't gel with. You're going to work with crew that you find a pain in the ass and you just got to get through it, or whatever the case is. One of the things that Bruce and I have always said is, and again, it's easy when it's not easy. It's easier when you're independent and you have a crew of 17, it's relatively small. You're in one location. That's another thing too, that cannot be forgotten. It's Me, Billy was essentially one location. Well, if you're shooting in one location and you don't have to tear down at the end of every day, or, several times a day and move locations and shit, it makes it so much easier. We could leave dolly tracks set up in the hallway because we were coming back to it the next day. You don't always have that luxury. Do you know what I mean? So to be fair, but Bruce and I have always said that one of our goals, no matter how, where we go, we've always said that we want to do our very best to make sure our cast and our crew is happy. We fight for them, because if your cast and crew is happy, listen, they're not stupid. Cast and crew understand that there are obstacles and you face adversity and sometimes shit happens. You got to roll with the punches. They know that. But we've made it a goal to try and treat our cast and crew with respect and always make sure they're happy, they're well fed, they're well taken care of, because then they will fight for you. And if you need to go an hour over time, a well-fed, happy, well taken care of cast and crew are more likely to say, okay, now again, if you're, non-union projects here, if you're working on a union project at the Hollywood level, that's different, obviously. But your cast and crew are more likely to be like, you know what, let's do it. We're here, let's do it. Because they believe in you and they're treated well and you treat them well. So I always say to everybody out there, especially if you're an independent, filmmaker, and all independent means is that you're not making films connected to the studio system. Independent doesn't mean amateur, okay? It doesn't mean home movies. It just means there's a lot of professional independent films out there. If you're not, treat your cast and crew, treat them with respect. Because you're independent and you're not backed by a studio, there may be that hour where you need to go over, or you may need to sacrifice this or do that, whatever. But if your cast and crew are taken care of and they're happy and they see you fighting, they're going to want to fight with you. And they're going to say, no, let's do it. Let's do it. Because the last thing an unhappy crew member is going to want to do is work an extra hour. Do you know what I'm saying? So we learned that. That was something we learned too. And we did our best to take care of everybody really well. Anyway, I know I've gone on about this, but it's a good question. And then in terms of expectations, obviously you want to please as many people as you can. You always hope that everybody loves what you put out, but this is art and not everybody is going to like what you put out. Do you know what I mean? It is what it is. Thankfully, I think the vast majority of people who've watched It's Me, Billy have really enjoyed it, especially Black Christmas fans, because that's really who it's for at the end of the day. If you're not a fan of Black Christmas and you don't like it, and you couldn't give a fuck about it, well, then you're probably going to watch our movie and be like, whatever, right? Like you're not really going to care because you're not emotionally invested into the story. So, and of course you always have people, oh, this fucking sucks, this dog shit. Well, you always have those people. That's just life. That's just the reality of putting your art out there. But thankfully, most people, I think, have watched it and have been really positive about it. Thought, wow, this is great. Like, what you guys were able to do on such a small budget and how Hollywood it looks, quote unquote. We've had that compliment as well. And that's really great and all that kind of stuff. So, and Black Christmas fans really appreciate sort of it feeling like it's in that universe again and going back to the roots and building off this other thing and all that kind of stuff. And so, we hope that everybody was going to like it, but we knew that was impossible. So we didn't really set our expectations there. You just focus on what you need to do, believe in the project. And this goes to anybody out there. Believe in your project, believe in the story, do what you got to do, put the best product out there you possibly can, and then you let the chips fall where they may. That's all you can do. Great questions. Great question. I guess it is a couple of questions. Thank you. Appreciate it. I've learned a lot from making It's Me, Billy. The Slaughter Lamb Movie Podcast sends in £4.49 and says, to our silent third TSL member, buy yourself some white socks. To our silent third TSL member, buy yourself some white socks. I was like, what is that? It's the disco. It's a disco. I love it. A silent TSL. Thank you, Darren. I appreciate that. I appreciate the super chat, Darren. Thank you. That's funny. I was like, I think it's a disco ball, isn't it? And somebody going like, woo! I love it. I didn't know what that was at first. I thought at first, because I'm not wearing my glasses, I thought it was a pair of white socks. I was like, all right, I'm going to buy some white socks and some loafers. Thank you. I appreciate that. Evil Hell Music says, if you were offered to direct a reboot of any of the horror icons we haven't had in a while, what one would you go after? I would probably want to do Elm Street. I'd probably want to do A Nightmare on Elm Street. But I certainly wouldn't turn down a reboot of Halloween. That's for sure. I wouldn't turn that down either. Oh, there goes my light. Oh, my light. That means we're approaching 2 hours. I got to get, you know what? I've been meaning to do this. I have to get a light that I don't have to recharge. So the light will never go out. I don't know why I haven't done that yet. Gulag? Is that how you say that? It's Me, Billy is really solid. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that. CM says, but Dave, when are we getting IMDb 2? Can't say anything at the moment. I will reiterate sort of what I've been saying the last few months. Bruce and I are working on a couple of things at the moment. And Bruce is very busy at the moment. He's got something let's just say that after the month of August, there will be hopefully some announcements that maybe we can make about some things. Let's just say that. We'll just say that. So hold your horses, folks. Hold your horses. Because yes, we would love to complete the story. We would. Obviously, for those of you that may not know, It's Me, Billy is obviously, it ends on an epic cliffhanger because our intention was to hopefully, complete the story. And then there's another thing that we're working on that we're very excited about as well. It's that treatment that I haven't told anybody about it, what it's about, but I've told you guys that we've been working on a treatment, and it's something that we are very excited about. I can say this because I've said it before. It would be a feature-length horror movie, not a slasher movie, but it's a story we're very excited about. And we would love to do it. So how that comes to fruition, I'm not sure yet. There's still some wheels in motion that, we don't know where it's going to go yet, but it's a story that would be really cool. So there's that we're working on. So there's a lot of things that are in motion, and IMDb 2 is in the mix there. Just after August. Frank Maurici, I believe, sends in $5, says, hey, Dave, just want to say thanks for all the content. Well, thanks very much. Thank you. I love these Q&As. They're not scripted. When am I ever? I love talking. I love talking. What a shot. No, but I love talking to you guys, and I love that you guys ask questions, and I just think it's such a wonderful way to, build the community, and I know I just did a Q&A on Friday, but I had some time to jump on here again on this Sunday afternoon, and I thought, why not do it? Let's jump on and talk, and I just think it's fun. It's fun to sort of talk and give my real-time, in-the-moment thoughts. I would probably be less... listen, I'm never going to not be verbose. It's just who I am. My dad was like that too, but... I would probably be less verbose if I didn't care. If I actually didn't care about giving you guys a answer, I probably would get through more questions. But I do take a lot of time. I do take a lot of time because I'm thinking about it. And then sometimes I change my mind while I'm actually answering because I'm like, no, actually, maybe this is a better answer and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I'm 43. It's built into me, folks. Jonathan Grant sends in £5. Thanks, Jonathan. Says, Dave, what are your thoughts on Maniac Cop? Our buddy Tom Atkins stars as Frank McRae. I know, it's spelled differently though. My name is McRae, not MCC. Maniac Cop, again, I've seen it, but not in a long time. I thought it was, B-movie, cheesy slide. I think it's fun. It's fun. Maniac Cop 2, Night of the Creeps. I put all those movies kind of in the same sort of ballpark of quality. Although Night of the Creeps I watched last night for a Saturday movie night Patreon, and the quality was really good. I must have been watching it in HD or something, but it was so crisp. It was amazing. It was really cool. Is it Maniac Cop or Maniac Cop 2 that has a firewalk? A pretty impressive firewalk. I don't think as impressive as Dick Warlock at the end of Halloween 2. Is it Maniac Cop 2? Maybe it's part 2 that's got a firewalk, and I thought it was great. But again, those movies they're not movies I watch on the regular. Like I watched them when I was a teenager. I think I've seen Maniac Maniac Cop once, maybe like 15 years ago. I watched it or something. But a lot of the B-movie slasher movie, they're not ones I revisit a lot, to be honest with you. Yeah. Aaron Click says, Dave, if you created a treatment for a film you were wanting to call unfair, that would be unfair treatment. Thanks, folks. I'm here all day. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, no, it's been great. Like I said, you know, for those of you that don't know, I mean, obviously, as a 43-year-old man, I'm wanting to put more focus into a filmmaking career now. You know, I went to film school. That's what I wanted to do with my life. And then I wound up working on the voiceover side of the entertainment industry. And I have no complaints. You know, I've had great success and it's my bread and butter and I enjoy it. I love it. I'm good at it. You know what I mean? I have no complaints. I've met a lot of wonderful people through this side of the business, and it's been amazing. But my first love has always been movies, and I've always wanted to make movies. And so that's why It's Me, Billy was so important to me, and why you probably hear me talk about it a lot or use it as a reference, because it's the first professional movie I've ever made, you know, something that I would put in a portfolio and use to showcase, you know, what I can do. So that's why it was so important to me. And that was one of the reasons why we wanted to do it, not just to do it as a fan film and just kind of let it sit there and, you know, whatever, but also use it as a calling card, you know, as well. And so, so it's been interesting. You know, I'm a little late to the party, obviously, to start it in my 40s, but fuck it, you can write and direct films. I mean, look at Clint Eastwood. He's 90 and he's still doing it. So I'm still, you know, I'm still fairly young, as they say, for all intents and purposes. So I'm really hoping that whatever is the next film that Bruce and I do, whether it's It's Me, Billy 2, or whether it's this other thing we're doing, or, you know, whatever the case is, that yeah, you know, that I continue to learn and get better and just continue to put myself out there. It's been a fun ride. It's been a fun ride. And I couldn't ask for a better partner in crime than Bruce. You know, we gel and mesh very well together. Obviously, that's 30 years of friendship. So that's definitely going to, I mean, we were making home movies together in the 90s. So making movies together is a very easy, natural fit for us. And we don't always agree. You know, but it's a very natural fit for us. And obviously, of course, him working in the film industry helps as well, right? He's got contacts and connections that I don't. So it's great stuff. It's great stuff. Let me see here. How long have we been going? Oh, we're approaching 2 hours. Should I go longer? Should this Sunday stream go longer? Maybe I will make it go a little bit longer. And then I have to get off here because I have to go up to the store, because tomorrow is a holiday here. Oh, by the way, there will not be any Two Dudes tomorrow. I will make a community post about this. I had totally forgot last week that it was a holiday here well, at least it's a holiday in Ontario where I am tomorrow. So I have made plans with my better half tomorrow. So there will be no Two Dudes and Some Bullshit tomorrow, but we'll be back the week after that. I know, disappointing. I know. But if anybody wants to drop, you know, $10 million, there'll be a Two Dudes tomorrow. Let me see. Okay. Dennis Williams says, Dave, one thing I'm looking forward to seeing in Halloween Ends is how they address the 4-year gap from 18 to 22. What has he been doing? Where has he been? Him being missing for 4 years is a little cliche. Yeah, I agree. I don't know if they're going to address it at all. They may not. It might just be self-explanatory once you find out where he's been. So if if just by the sheer process of the movie sort of moving along and we find out that he's been in the sewer or he's been in these caves or whatever, there's really no need to explain that. Oh, okay, that's where he's been. I know there are certain fans who be like, oh, but how has he been eating? How's it? Well, okay, he's been eating sewer rats. He's been eating, I don't know, feces. It's coming down from people's toilets. I have no idea. But I think you will get an explanation, but it will probably be indirect. I don't necessarily think there's going to be this whole scene where they explain it. I think it'll probably just be a show don't tell, right? So it'll just be simply by discovering that he's there, and you're definitely going to hear the characters wonder about it, right? Like, he's been missing for 4 years. Where do you think he's been? Nobody knows. Like you'll get certain, dialogue like that. And then, maybe Corey is tipped off that he's in the sewers or something, and he goes searching for him and he finds him, and there's your answer right there, right? He's been in the sewers. Now, I know we can take it that one step further and be like, well, yeah, but how has he been surviving? How has he been eating? How has he been, I get it. I totally get it. But, I just don't think they're going to spend a lot of time on it. That's my feeling anyway. That's my feeling. I could be wrong, but that's my feeling. Saw AB James says, I don't remember Maniac Cop that much either. Haven't seen it in decades. I thought somebody had addressed my Maniac Cop question, the firewalk, but maybe nobody has. I thought it was Maniac Cop. Maybe it wasn't. I'm not sure. Maybe it wasn't. Riley sends in $2, says, how do you do Optimus Prime's voice? I don't know. I don't do Optimus Prime's voice. So I'm not sure. I mean, it would be lower in the throat for sure. But Peter Culling, right? Is that his name? Peter Culling? Why am I blanking on this? Yeah. Who I met, by the way, at the Voice Arts Awards at Warner Brothers, who is the voice of Optimus Prime. And I made a post about this, was it earlier this year, I think? As like a throwback Thursday. So he was getting a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Voice Arts Awards. And I was there, obviously, because I had been nominated. And this is 2019, so I was nominated for Outstanding Body of Work, which is pretty cool. That's like Best Picture at the Voice Arts Awards. That's unreal that I was nominated. I didn't win, but it was unreal to be there for that. Anyway, I think it was after, it might have been before. I had walked down the hallway and I was using the washroom. And as I was coming out of the washroom, I think it was when I was coming out of the washroom, he was coming in, Peter Culling. He was coming in. And we did that dance, where you go this way and then you go that. Oh, sorry. Sorry. And that was really cool. I did a little jig with Optimus Prime. Really nice guy. And he's Canadian. He's Canadian, by the way. And so that was cool. But his voice is his natural speaking voice is just Optimus Prime, but less gravelly. So he doesn't really put on a voice. He just puts on. He would just go into the throat. Probably where I go was sort of the trailer voice, in that sort of respect. Unless that's what you meant. Unless you are interpreting my trailer voice sounding like Optimus Prime, which I guess in some sort of way it's in the same register. It's very similar, I would imagine. The trailer voice is just something that I perfected when I was in high school because I was a big fan of Don LaFontaine. Never met Don LaFontaine, but I did exchange a few emails with him back before he died. He died in 2008, and I exchanged a few emails with him in 2006 because in 2006, I had just landed the job as the promo voice for a television station here in Toronto, and they were doing The Sopranos. They were one of the first networks in Canada to broadcast The Sopranos in syndication. And I was hired to be the promo voice for the station. And one of the reasons why I was hired was because I could do the trailer voice. And they wanted the trailer voice for all of their Sopranos ads. So I did. And it wasn't my first professional job doing the trailer voice. My first professional job doing the trailer voice was a trailer I did for The Descent. And that was actually my first professional trailer, was for The Descent. And, but I remember in 2006 reaching out to Don LaFontaine. He had a website at that time. And I reached out to him and I sent him a clip of one of my Sopranos ads. And he got back to me and he loved it. He thought it was great. And he liked the fact that I wasn't doing an imitation of him. I was making it my own, which he appreciated. I probably still have the email, actually, if I could. This is a long time ago, but I probably still have it. And so that was really cool. But I was a big fan of him. I was a big fan of doing that kind of a voice. And I used to do it on my high school announcements and all that kind of stuff. And when I went to college and I studied radio, television, and film, I had my own college radio. I had my own show on the college radio station, and I became the promo voice of the college radio station. And I did all of the station IDs in that voice. So it's a voice that I have perfected and that I have nurtured for 25 years. So it's very easy for me to dip into it. Again, I don't do it live on the show because for me, it's kind of, I like the fact that, I could do it, but I like the fact that people always, I get a kick out of people not believing it's me. You know what I mean? Thinking, no, that's not you. You don't, because it doesn't look like that voice would come out of me. And this goes back maybe 5 or 6 years ago, that I made a point to not do it kind of live. But like I said on the last live stream, there is a video on my channel that you can YouTube Dave McRae trailer voice. And I do actually do it for you and you can hear it. And there's, if you YouTube Dave McRae, It Chapter 1, maybe, I think I have that up there. I did a promo for It Chapter 1 when it came out, which was really cool. That was like a dream come true. And I use the trailer voice for that. And that is my real voice. It's not pitched down. It's not made lower. It's my real voice. The only thing that the engineer would have done is added processing to it, which just fills it out a bit for broadcast. But that's it. In terms of the pitch and the tone, all that, it's me. But I think probably that's what you're talking about, my Optimus Prime voice. If you're talking about the actual voice of Optimus Prime, I don't do that voice. So that would not be me. Larisi says, have you met James Jude Courtney? I have not met James Jude Courtney. I would love to meet James Jude Courtney. He seems like such a sweetheart of a guy. Evil Alex says, the firewalk was in Maniac Cop 2. Okay, so I was right. It was Maniac Cop 2. Very cool. Okay, we'll go a few more minutes, and then we will call it a day. A few more minutes, and then we shall call it a day, because I have to skedaddle. Oh, where am I here? Where are you guys? There you guys are. Blair Hathaway says, Dave, can you do Al Pacino? No, I can't do Al Pacino. I'm not an impressionist. I can do catchphrases, hooah, great ass, all that kind of, that kind of stuff. Great ass, by the way, is something he says in Heat, which I think is hilarious. But you know how everybody's like, hooah, hooah. That's not an impression of Al Pacino. No more than is an impression of Arnold, right? An impression is like, can you talk like him or her for like 10 minutes without breaking character? And I can close my eyes and be like, wow, that's a great, that sounds like Arnold. That's an impression, right? Doing somebody's catchphrase is not an impression of that person. And I say that, and the reason why I emphasize that is because there are a lot of aspiring voice actors out there that think that it is, that think if they can, I can do a great Ronald Reagan impression. Oh, you can? Okay, do it. Well, that's. Oh, well, yeah, he said, well, that's not an impression of Ronald Reagan. You know, I can do Arnold. Oh, you can't? Oh, I can do a great Arnold. We'll do it. Yeah, come on, I'm here. Come on. That's not an Arnold Schwarzenegger impression. Everybody does. That's not, you know what I mean? So there's a difference between an impression, an actual impression, and just doing somebody's catchphrase. So I'm not an impressionist. You know, I would not consider myself somebody that could do. There are professional impressionists who do amazing jobs at, like, you know, De Niro, Pacino, Seinfeld, Robin Williams. You know, pick your celebrity that is very easy to sort of mimic, not easy to mimic, but is fun to mimic. Then that's definitely something there. But for me, yeah, I'm not an impressionist. I would never audition for a role for somebody looking for like a Robin Williams impressionist or something. You know what I mean? No, my specialties in voiceover would lie in animation. Obviously, I'm very good at creating characters, not just voices, not doing just funny voices. There's more to animation than doing funny voices. It's not about just doing funny voices. It's about creating characters for those voices, right? So definitely I'm good in the world of animation. Probably no surprise there. And then commercial and promo, obviously, which has been commercial and promo has been sort of my bread and butter for 2 decades. And then over the last 5 or 6 years, I have an agent now for just animation specifically. And now I'm really getting more into the animation side of things, which I've always wanted to do. But before that, it was very promo, trailer, and commercial heavy. But yeah, no, yeah, Riley, get to the chopper. Yeah, no, I cannot do Al Pacino unless you consider Hooah! Al Pacino. Well, there you go. Brendan Grayville sends in $9.99 and says, or Gravel, maybe? It's not spelled, but maybe it's Graville, maybe, something like that. There's a couple of ways that, again, see, it's the voice actor in me, phonetically sounding out names that might be able to be said a few different ways. Brendan sends in $9.99 and says, nervous whether this new copycat plot in Halloween Ends will be executed well. Mob violence was a great idea, but terrible execution and kills, in my opinion. I agree, man. I do. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Yeah, it's definitely, again, we have no evidence 100% yet to say that this is something that is that there's definitely going to be a copycat killer. It's not the choice I would have made, but if there is whatever this Corey character is going to be, whether he's just infatuated or he's infatuated and becomes a killer, is yet to be determined. But I'm right there with you, man. I'm skeptical. It makes me nervous. I always try to remain cautiously optimistic, but it does make me nervous. It does, for sure. Javid Ben Cosme, I think is how you say that. Ben Cosme, Ben. I don't know if that's, I think that I know how to say it, but I'm wondering if you're having fun with it, or because you know some people put like 3 words together. I don't think you're doing that though. Javid, I think is how you say that, right? Javid, maybe. $5 says the Halloween movie needs a smart, straight male character like Loomis and Paul Rudd. Every male is useless in these movies. Well, I disagree. I disagree because I think and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're alluding to is you might be possibly alluding to the fact that this is, you know, that there is a woke angle to this. Oh, it's female empowerment. We're just going to give all that to the females and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, again, I don't want to speak for you. You are correct in the sense of that there isn't a strong male character like a Loomis. That is true. But I haven't watched, for me, it's just my opinion, I haven't watched these movies and thought, oh, this is just making females strong. And I'm not saying you are, by the way. I could be interpreting what you're saying incorrect. But I have never watched these movies and thought, oh, this needs a strong male character. It doesn't, I've never felt that, because although I have not been a big fan of these movies overall, I do feel that the choice to introduce a granddaughter and not a grandson is properly motivated. It makes sense to me because of the connective tissue in terms of the lineage, in terms of the emotional bond that you would share between a grandmother and a granddaughter, and how it sort of comes full circle in that. There's a synchronicity. There's a poetic sort of rhyming to that, where it's properly motivated with the story when we talk about from that angle. So having it the three generation of women, you may not want that. I'm not saying you, I mean the collective you may think that's too woke perhaps. Why isn't it a grandson? Why, whatever. But that's never bothered me, because it has always felt properly motivated in terms of the story and sort of the generational emotional bond of, you know, the same sex in that regard. Not having, I think what it could need though, is I think Hawkins should have just been the sheriff. And I think that's where your stronger male lead probably would have come from. I think these movies could have had that, but I've never watched them and thought it's missing that. But that's me. I've never watched these two movies thought, oh, it's missing a strong male character. I've never thought that. You've thought that, and that's fair. But I've never thought that. I will just simply say that I do think Hawkins should have been the sheriff. I think Barker is useless. And the fact that I now have to preface this by saying it has nothing to do with the fact that he's black, that's the world we live in now. Can you believe that? I actually have to say it has nothing to do with he's black. You know, the fact that he's black. It should be obvious. Of course, there's nothing to do with that. It's the fact that he's a useless character. I couldn't give a frog's fat ass whether he was black, white, Asian, green, or purple. It's the character that is useless. So I think Barker is a useless character. He's got very little agency, if at all. Whereas Hawkins, it makes sense for him to be the sheriff, not because he's white, but because he has more agency, and he's got more gravitas, and he's got history with Michael. He was there that night. You know, it just makes more sense that maybe that would have been a better fit for Hawkins, and that would have been a better role for him. And then that's where that strong sort of, because he already is probably the strongest male character in these two films. And, you know, we'll see what Halloween Ends is in store. But in terms of the characters, just characters only, I wish Barker was a stronger character. He just was written as sort of aloof, like somebody that's just completely incompetent in his job. And I just don't believe that he would be incompetent in his job. He just, for me, it just doesn't feel like, anyways, I don't want to keep going on and on and on about it. I just think it would have been a better fit. It would have been a better fit to have Hawkins as the sheriff. But yeah, to your question, dude, I've never felt that way. It's fair if you feel that way. That's how you feel. And I can't change that. But I've never watched as much. Listen, and you know the issues I have with these movies. I would never say that that part of the movie is too woke. I think there's a couple of things that, especially in Halloween Kills, that maybe you could perceive as that. But the focus being on the two women or the three women, no, I think that's I think that's the least problem that these two films have. I don't think that's a problem at all, to be totally honest with you. Devin Irwin says, Dave, take that back. I'm green. I'm green, damn it. But can you believe that, though? Like, can you believe that we live in a world where, you know, you kind of have to say that? You know, you kind of have to say, oh, it's not because, well, isn't that obvious? Shouldn't that be obvious? You know, like, come on, nuance, people. Like, come on. Wouldn't it be obvious if, like, in my opinion, I think it's always going to be obvious when someone is harping on somebody simply because of their skin color. Like, don't you think that would have come out? Like, don't you think that would be kind of obvious? but no, I gotta say it because, oh, you just don't, the fuck you talking about? It's the character. I want Barker to be this strong. He's just not a strong character. He's completely incompetent and out of his league. Maybe Hawkins will end up being the sheriff by the end of Halloween Ends. Maybe he will. But Hawkins is just a better, stronger character with more agency. And he's got history with Michael. It's a no-brainer to me. But that's me. All right, let me see here. Okay, we'll go another 10 minutes. Another 10 minutes. We'll take this thing to 2 hours and 30 minutes. 2 hours and 30 minutes. 2 hours and 30 minutes. Let me see here. Did I miss any super chats? I don't think so. I got that one from Javid, got that one. Michael Parton says, Dave, would you be open to cuddle with guys like me? I would not be open to cuddling with guys like you, but that's just because I'm straight. That's all, right? There's plenty of guys out there in the sea that would totally be open to cuddling with guys like you. I'm sure you're a great guy and very cuddleable to the right guy. Absolutely. Dennis Williams says, Dave, it's okay. I'm black and proud. Well, you should be proud. You should be proud, man. But I totally understand what you were saying. People need to understand. Oh, it's true, isn't it, though? It's true. I should be able to say, oh, that Barker, man. I'm talking about the character. Omar Dorsey, who I think is the actor, he's a great actor. I was really disappointed at the end of Halloween 18 with how they wrote his character. I was like, oh, man, really? It's like, what are you doing? It's the character. Characters. I don't care. I literally do not care. Some of the shit that is happening today is blowing my mind because I'm like, I don't even care about that. I don't even care. I don't even think about it. I just want good characters and a good story. I don't care. I don't really care. That's my, I don't care. That's me. Man. David Irwin says, whoa, I've never lasted 2 hours and 30 minutes before. Oh, you mean the stream? Oh, I thought you were... No, it was someone else. Kenny_525 says, hey, Dave, what's the most cringy thing from Halloween Kills? The most cringy thing from Halloween Kills? Probably when... there's probably a few things, but off the top of my head, probably when Allison says... speaking of Barker, when he says that Michael Myers is alive to Karen, and there's a sharp cut. I think this is how it goes. I haven't watched the movie in a while. There's a sharp cut, and we have Allison staring off to her right, and she just goes, what? Oh, it doesn't feel organic. It comes across as exactly this. Okay, we got it set up. Okay. Now, Andy, you're just going to look over here and you're just going to scream what? Okay, ready? Okay, sound, roll camera, and action. What? Like, it's just like she's not playing off of anybody. It just looks like she's staring at the wall. It's cringe. It just feels so forced and so overselling and so over the top. I just don't believe it. One could say it's bad acting, which I guess it is. I don't consider Andi Matichak to be a bad actor at all. She's great. But I don't know if it's just the juxtaposition from that moment to what? It just was cringe to me. It just was, I didn't believe it. And I thought that the first time I watched it in the theater. So it doesn't ruin the movie. It's not like, oh my God, and that's the worst thing about, no. It's just something that I noticed that I remember thinking, little over the top. I actually think you could just remove that completely. If this was my movie and I was editing it, I probably would have tried to figure out a way that made sense to not include that. Because it's like 1.4 seconds long. I might have just maybe cut from Michael Myers is alive, Karen says what or whatever, and then we either cut right to then Allison just opening the door and leaving, or maybe there's something else we can cut to and then come back to her where it makes more sense or something. That's not really worth, a reshoot on, just for that one thing. Maybe there's something else I have on the cutting room floor that I could fit in there that makes more sense. Maybe there's another take. I mean, that's entirely possible too. Maybe it's just a matter of the take they chose. Maybe they just ran it wild and they rolled sound, rolled camera, and just got Allison to say a bunch of what's right in a row, which could have been the case. So, it would have been like, okay, and action. And she just would have been like, what? 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 Do you know what I mean? Like they probably had her rhyme off 4 or 5 different whats. And then that's just the one that they chose. So it's entirely possible that maybe maybe it's just a matter of the take they chose. Maybe there was a better what sitting on the cutting room floor, as the saying goes, and they just needed to slip that in there and then it would have been okay. But there's something about that what that just never sits with me. It's so over the top. But that's me. That's me. So that would be cringy for me. Super chat comes in from Gareth Kowalski, I think is Kowalski. A Welshman Reviews. We'll just call you that. A Welshman Reviews. Kowalski. I think I'm saying it right. I might have the emphasis on the right part, on the wrong part, excuse me. Nonetheless, thank you for the £5 super chat, buddy. It says, hey, Dave, you spoke before about how Halloween would look great in black and white. Any other movies you think that would benefit from it being in black and white? Well, I'm sure there's lots. I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm sure there are lots. Yeah, maybe first Halloween for sure. Maybe the first Black Christmas. A lot of the old school sort of films from the 70s with older production value might look really cool, but it all depends, right? Halloween, the original Halloween benefits from black and white because when you get to the nighttime scenes, you have a lot of low-key film noir lighting in the vein of that. It's not quite like that, but it's because of the lighting choices from Dean Cundy and his gaffer that black and white really benefits. Just putting a movie in black and white won't necessarily benefit. So if there's a horror movie that has a lot of nighttime things, a lot of like stark sort of high contrast lighting, a lot of split lighting or, whatever, you get a lot of that kind of stuff, which you sometimes see in older school horror films. Black and white might really make that pop and look really cool. But just putting any horror movie in black and white, not necessarily going to benefit. So maybe the original Black Christmas, maybe. I was thinking maybe the first Conjuring movie, maybe, but maybe the first no, maybe Conjuring over Insidious. I don't know. Because it's an effect that it's got to be on the right movie. And in the same vein, how when you colorize a black and white movie, it's like, this isn't working, right? Because it was shot, it was, the lighting was specifically crafted, to have, to complement the black and white sort of look. And not every film does that. So I don't know off the top of my head, but maybe Black Christmas, the original, obviously I'm talking about. The first Elm Street, I'm going to say no. That's a good question, dude. I got to think on that. That's a good question. Very good question. Thanks for the super chat, man. $10 super chat comes in from Javid. Again, I'm going to call you Javid until you correct me. Javid again sends in $10 and says, no issue with the granddaughter not being a son. I'm saying there are no strong straight male. Every group scene, the male is dumber. Dad Bomb Doyle doesn't help. Okay, well, now when you say straight male, do you mean like in terms of sexuality, or do you mean just like a straight, male? I'm not sure. Like, yes, that is, what you're saying is not incorrect, okay? What you're saying is not incorrect. But because of where your focus is, I can't help but feel, and maybe I'm wrong, I can't help but feel that you think that this was deliberately done. And I don't necessarily, like, deliberately done in a way that was sort of, because they have this vendetta against men or something like that. Now, you follow up here by saying the ballerina kid and dad in 2018, the black couple in Kills, how the girl knows how to use a gun, but the guy doesn't. I enjoy the movies, but I think there is subtle male hating undertone. Okay, so that's what I'm getting at here. You're entitled to feel that way. 100% you're entitled to feel that way. I've never watched the movie and thought that. So it's difficult for me to talk about it because I've never watched the movie and thought that they were male bashing or hating on men or subtly, right? Sort of just kind of like passive aggressively. Now, maybe you're right. I mean, maybe if you were to talk to David Gordon Green and Danny McBride, they'd say, oh yeah, no, we made it a point to kind of just, poke fun at males. I don't think that's the case. I think it becomes very obvious when it is, in my opinion. I've never watched Halloween 18 and Kills and thought that. But that's me. That's me. But I thank you for clarifying. You're absolutely entitled to feel that way. I just haven't got that. Even subtly, I don't feel that way. To me, it doesn't feel like, it doesn't come across as, like you say here, sort of male hating. It doesn't come across that way to me. It comes across to me as poor writing. That's different. Now, when I say poor writing, I don't mean everything is poor. I just mean that they're not giving a lot of characters agency. But then you look at a character like Lonnie in Halloween Kills. He had a lot more agency. He had a lot. Now, he was arguably, stronger, right? Do you know what I'm saying? I think it just comes down to bad writing. I think at the end of the day, there were too many legacy characters. There were too many things they were trying to do in Halloween Kills. And I think if they had peeled it back and they had simply just, like I mentioned on Hallowstream a couple of weeks ago, if they had just simply made the story about Lindsay and Tommy, there is no Marion, there is no Brackett, there is no Lonnie, there's none of that. They just simply made the story about Lindsay and Tommy. I'm not saying they're married or anything like that, but Lindsay and Tommy become sort of fish out of water. And the town of Haddonfield is looking to them for strength because they were the ones that experienced this 40 years ago. But Lindsay and Tommy feel like fish out of water and feel ill-equipped because they were children back then. You know what I mean? And it really becomes sort of Tommy and Lindsay trying to figure out how to band together, get the town together to try and take down Michael, whatever the case is. But then you give yourself more time and more screen time and more focus on Tommy and Lindsay. Arguably the two legacy characters that we care about most. Yeah, it was great to see Brackett back. Yeah, that's nice. It was great to see Marion back. Yeah, that's nice. We got her in H2O though. Okay, it's not like we're clamming to have her. That's nice. Lonnie, was anybody clamming to see Lonnie back? I don't know. It takes up too much time, and at the end of the day, they all die going out not in the ways they should have gone out. They were underutilized, and it feels shitty because of that. But if you pull it back, less characters, you give more focus, and therefore by giving more focus, you can give more agency to Tommy and Lindsay. And then I think it would feel more filled out. It would feel more complete that way. That doesn't mean that Lindsay doesn't die or Tommy, maybe they still do, but you give more focus to them And I think then it would feel less of what you're talking about. I think at the end of the day, it feels the way you're talking about it, not because they're man-hating, but because there's just too many people and there's just too much going on and there's not enough time to give agency to everybody. And at the end of the day, this is a story about a grandmother, a granddaughter, and her daughter, and that's where all the focus and agency is going to be given at the end of the day. So, but I've never watched these two movies and thought that they were man-hating. But that's me, dude. That's me. But I appreciate the super chats. Thank you very much. All right, I am over time, folks. That is going to do it for me here on this Q&A. Thank you to all the super chat questions that came in today. And of course, those non-super chat ones as well. You are all amazing. You are all amazing. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you very much for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. Thank you, of course, to my great moderators, Frank Riker, Tabitha Short, Darren Sands, and Chris Baber for doing what you guys do. I really appreciate it as well. And remember, no two dudes and some bullshit tomorrow night. I will make a community post about it, of course, as well, just to let you guys know. But I appreciate you tuning in. I know I just did one of these on Friday, but I had another few hours to kill. And I wanted to jump on and talk with you guys and see what you guys are doing. Have a great rest of your weekend. Stay safe out there. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Of course, you don't know what that would be, so just do anything you want, I guess. Oh, a super chat comes in right at the buzzer from Lou, who sends in $1.99 and says, first chat, thoughts on Godzilla vs. Kong 2. Well, since this is your first super chat, let me just say that I'm not overly excited about it. I liked Godzilla vs. Kong. I thought it was fun, but I am an unabashed fan of Godzilla King of the Monsters. Now, there's a film that for whatever reason, most people don't seem to like. That is my favorite Godzilla movie of this new era. That is my favorite movie of this new Monsterverse. Wasn't really a fan of Kong Skull Island. Wasn't really a fan of the first Godzilla movie in 2014. It's okay. Not really a fan. Godzilla King of the Monsters, loved. Godzilla vs. Kong, it's all right. So I got to say that I'm not really looking forward to Godzilla vs. Kong. I'll watch it because it's Godzilla and he's my boy. Godzilla's my man. But not really a huge fan. Not really a huge fan of the Godzilla versus Kong, to be honest with you. So it is what it is. Let me see. Rest in peace, O'Hara. Oh no, really? O'Hara? Star Trek, right? Oh, that's too bad. Oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. I saw her at Fan Expo here in Toronto about 6 years ago, and she looked beautiful. This silver hair, she was stunning. She was like, how old was she? Let me type this in. She's born 1932, so she was 80 or 90. 80, yeah, wow. Oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. Or 89, because I guess it's before her birthday. That's too bad. That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. Javed sends in $5, says, thanks, bud. Good idea on Tommy and Laura. You mean Tommy and Lindsay or Tommy and Lori? To be continued. To be continued. There you go. No, I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat and thank you for talking. You see, this is what it's all about, right? We don't always have to agree. We just have to be cordial and polite with each other and treat each other with dignity and respect, as long as we deserve it, of course. I mean, if you're a fucking dick, well, I'm not gonna give you respect. Respect is earned. You know what I'm saying? But this was a good conversation. I like it. It is, O'Hara. Yeah, that's too bad. Well, I mean, Jesus. William Shatner's 91. There's a lot of legends that will be dying. And I know that sounded, it's kind of a morbid way to end the show, but it's just the people we grew up with. You know, all these legends are getting up in age now. Sucks. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, folks. I really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I will talk to you all soon. Alrighty. Wait a minute. There we go. Now I got the right one. Cheers.